If everyone, would take their seat, we'll start in about a minute.
Sorry to disappoint, but we have no hope.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October meeting of the Safety Committee. Do we have any public speakers, Mr. Mayor?
No, sir, we do not.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of last meeting? Second, any comments? All in favor? Aye. Mr. Mayor, report of the Chief Safety Officer.
Good morning. We have not met as a safety committee for a while, so there is a little bit to report on some activities that have been underway. I will say that first that we do have kind of an ambitious agenda despite our attempts to even pare it down for this meeting. I think we could be a little bit time challenged, so I'll just ask everyone to be cognizant of that as we move through our morning. So as I mentioned, there have been some activities to report since we met before. I want to talk a little bit about a developing approach to managing safety at the MTA. And so what I want to speak about for a few minutes is safety management systems, or SMS. I wanted to try to tell you a little bit about what it is and about how we're going to move forward under SMS at the MTA. I guess I should say, first of all, the second S there trips people up, the word systems. It makes it sound like SMS is something that you go to a store and buy off the shelf and then implement as a safety program, and that's not accurate at all. Is really just the mean that, like any other business process, if you want to maximize something or improve on something, you need to set goals, targets, and measure it, and ensure that it's moving in the direction that you want to see it move. So SMS is really just safety management, or the management of safety as a business process. That said, I probably won't get away without defining it a little bit more formally. So more formally, SMS is the top-down, organization-wide, data-driven approach to managing safety risk and assuring the effectiveness of safety mitigations. So essentially, SMS provides a strategy through which an organization can identify best practices from a safety perspective and share those throughout an organization, or in our case, across agencies. SMS will eventually be required by regulation, I believe, from the Department of Transportation. It's already required for airlines, and for the most part, the airlines are in compliance. The FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, has indicated that it'll publish a notice of proposed rulemaking fairly soon to require SMS for transit properties, and I suspect that the FRA will also fall in line. So our desire is to get out in front of this and be a leader in our industry. To lead and develop SMS at the MTA ahead of regulatory requirements will mean that we will need to gain a little comfort with change, and we will need to take a risk or two along the way. In other words, not everything we do will be exactly perfect right out of the box. It'll take a little tweaking and adjusting to get it right. So when that happens, I'm going to ask that you view that not as failure, but as a sign of continual improvement, which is really a cornerstone of SMS. So in a very real sense, safety is not something that an organization achieves on a particular day. It's really the journey that creates safety. The MTA is a big agency, actually a big collection of agencies, so this journey will not be quick, but with your support, we can build something, build an SMS that works well for us here. I'll ask you also to remember that SMS is not really something you have, it's really something you do. To further describe SMS just a little bit, I hope the board members can see it, but it is in your board books and on director's desk. SMS is really, if I tell you that SMS is something you do rather than something you have, it's reasonable to ask, well, what does it look like when you're doing it? And an SMS, when you're doing it, is defined by 4 pillars. This is really the common definition that's coming out of the Department of Transportation, so it's what we can expect to see eventually in rules. We have, of course, been doing safety activities that correspond to each of these pillars already across all of our agencies, so adopting SMS will hardly be revolutionary change at the MTA, but consciously thinking about our safety activities as falling into one or more of these buckets will help us advance SMS thinking here. So a brief word about each of the pillars. It's important that SMS flows from the top. All of us around this big table represent the top, from the chairman and CEO, the board members, the agency presidents, the chief safety officers, and the executive teams of each of the agencies. Because safety flows from the top and SMS is led from the top, I just really felt it was important to talk with you about it today. It's something we've had a variety of conversations about over the last several months, and it was time to bring you guys into the conversation. That first pillar also includes safety policy, so I'll mention that we are working on an all-agency safety policy that we hope to be advancing shortly. The middle pillars there, safety, risk management, and safety assurance, have been around a long time in our industry as system safety, and obviously they are a core of SMS and remain critically important to the success of SMS and the success of safety as we identify risk and create mitigations to control them and continually drive safety improvement. And finally, that last pillar, we promote safety through communications and training and related activities so everyone knows how to be safe and just as importantly knows that safety is important to all of us here at the top of the organization. So the next question might be, so how would we build and implement SMS at the MTA? Well, if we didn't already have mature and fairly well-performing safety programs, I would probably be sitting here and telling you that we need to conduct a detailed, complex gap analysis and create a complicated step-by-step implementation plan. But that's really not where we sit, so I don't really think that's the appropriate starting point for the MTA. I think that it's appropriate for us to really plunge right in and begin to conduct some activities that are directly identifiable with the 4 pillars of SMS. So I'll close out by telling you about a couple of activities that are already underway that are being initiated, with SMS in mind. So just like we partnered with Operation Lifesaver to ensure best practices in grade crossing safety, we are leveraging our existing membership in the National Safety Council to help us look for some best practices at implementing SMS. So just a word about the National Safety Council. If you're not familiar with that organization, it's a 100-year-old nonprofit organization headquartered just outside of Chicago that got its start as really an industrial safety organization. But its mission has evolved a great deal, and today its motto is making our world safer. So they look to promote safety in all aspects of human endeavor, really. And they call implementing SMS the journey to safety excellence, and that's really the journey that we are on. So we asked the National Safety Council to facilitate a workshop for us that was held in this room on September 22nd, and the topic of the workshop was developing safety goals and metrics that will really form the cornerstone of our SMS program. We reviewed SMS principles in greater detail and the importance of goals and metrics to supporting that framework. Because safety is not something that's just simply done in safety departments, it's something that's done across organizations, and it flows from the top. The chairman and CEO made some opening remarks at the workshop. The agency president spent the entire day with us, as did the chief safety officers and a cross-section of operating executives from around the MTA. So one of the results from the workshop is that agencies are now working to identify safety goal statements. We'll kind of use these as mini mission statements to select important metrics, leading indicators later in the year. So it's important for me to warn you that these new metrics will not be cast in stone. They'll represent what we believe is the most important thing for high-level focus, senior-level focus, and that focus will likely change over time, and that's the continuous improvement that I mentioned a moment ago. Our plan is to start reporting these metrics to you in 2016. SMS will, of course, be concerned with all safety risk, but it's particularly important that we ensure focus on the prevention of major events. That doesn't mean that we'll stop focusing on how many slips, trips, and falls have occurred lately, but counting slips, trips, and falls doesn't really have to do much with preventing a major accident. In fact, counting something that happened in the past is really reporting out a lagging indicator, and the focus of SMS is prevention. So for prevention, we really need to be paying attention to leading indicators. We need to be counting those activities that we do every day across our agencies to prevent unwanted future events. So I don't certainly want to be misunderstood. It's not that single injury events are unimportant, but in fact, every injury is important. But it's also critically important that we pay attention to the prevention of major accidents, such as, say, a mainline derailment or a major bus collision. So we ask for your help in maintaining that appropriate focus as we move forward. We'll begin to focus on leading indicators, and we'll periodically adjust our metrics. So that means we'll begin to report to you a little bit less frequently on some metrics you're used to seeing every month, and we'll be introducing you to new metrics very soon. So we ask for your support as we move forward with those efforts. And finally, another initiative that I wanted to mention that several of us are particularly excited about is that we have subscribed all of the agency's employees to a magazine, a 24-page quarterly magazine, very high-quality publication that comes out, I just said quarterly. Board members will get a copy as well. It really focuses, this magazine will be mailed to employees' homes. It focuses on those places where employees are most likely to be injured, and that's really outside the workplace. Our workplaces are controlled by very strict rules and regulations. That's not at all the case in our homes and in places where we play and vacation. So this magazine will provide an opportunity to demonstrate for each employee and each employee's family that safety is important and that safety begins at the top. And in fact, the first issue that we'll start mailing out in early November will include an inside front cover safety message from Chairman Prendergast to all of the MTA families, employees, and their families. So this will allow, push the space button. Okay. This will allow us to really do our own part to make our world safer. So that's what I wanted to report to you this morning, and take any questions if you have them.
I think it's important that we keep the focus on safety. When I came to the New York City Transit in January of 1982, at that time the going way in terms of new innovative development and safety was system safety. But now that's 30 years removed. We want to be on the forefront, as we were in system safety with SMS, and lead the industry. There are a number of times that federal agencies will come to see what one or a number of our agencies are doing, and they use that as a barometer in terms of what other agencies in public transportation should be doing. So we'll continue that effort. Want to talk about the work plan? Any questions? Neil?
Mr. Chairman, two quick questions. One, can you just give a little more definition on what top-down means in the SMS definition? And then secondly, can you just give us a sense of the date we should be expecting to discuss those metrics? We did have one go-around on the metrics in our old home when it was a draft, and so just be interested to know when those will be introduced. Thank you.
I guess maybe I'll try to take your second question first. The way we're really seeing this is not so much as an extension of that metrics effort that took place several months ago, but really as starting afresh, really thinking through SMS principles and leading indicators, maybe more than we were, more than I was a few months ago. So the anticipation is that we'll have more to say on metrics when we meet, perhaps even just in a few weeks, because the next safety committee meeting is on November 18th. And very early in the new year, you'll start to see new metrics. And I suspect since we will have done a great deal behind-the-scenes work thinking about why are these the most important things for the board to be focusing on, we'll probably want to make a series of mini presentations in the early part of next year to kind of make sure it's clear to you why we think those are important for you to be focused on. And your first question was top-down with respect to SMS. A guiding principle of SMS is accountability for safety. And the way that most SMSs, and certainly the way that the Department of Transportation is standardizing on SMS, they see the role of an accountable executive. That accountable executive is the head of the organization. In this case, for the MTA at large, it would be the chairman. And for each of the agencies that operate fairly independently of MTA headquarters, it would, of course, be the agency presidents. So the MTA is unique in that respect, that we might have more than one accountable executive. That's not something that's usually contemplated in SMS. But the key principle is that the ownership of safety and the importance of safety lies with the accountable executive. And although that executive can delegate responsibilities for carrying out a safety program, that accountability is not something that can be delegated. So it's important to show that commitment at the top.
No further comments and questions, work plan? David?
There are no changes to the work plan. We just went ahead and included it in today's book. There are no changes to the work plan, but I'd note that as we really change the focus to SMS, we will probably want to make some significant changes in next year's work plan.
And to that point, I mean, we're 2 months away from next year, so any efforts that you apply toward what you think we need to address next year, share them with David so that we can finalize the work plan for 16. Now move on to the other agenda items.
A word of introduction about the other agenda items. At the first Safety Committee meeting that I attended last year at our old home, I asked for any input from the committee members on topics that you'd like to see addressed. And Mr. Merdler suggested labor management initiatives, and Mr. Greenberg contractor safety oversight. So that's sort of the heart of our agenda today for the rest of our time. And what we did is we asked each of the agencies to pick 1 or 2 activities with respect to these topics that they wanted to showcase. So this is not meant to be a census of everything the agencies do on these important topics. This is just really meant to give you a flavor of looking out across the MTA, how we partner with labor to bring about and ensure safety, and what we do to make sure that our contractors have our safety values too. So with that, we can move forward.
So our first presenter will be Cheryl Kennedy, speaking about New York City Transit activities.
Okay, good morning. I will be giving you an overview of 2 of New York City Transit's labor management safety initiatives. The first initiative that I'd like to talk about is the New York City Transit Transport Workers Union Track Safety Task Force. The Joint Labor Management Track Safety Task Force was established in 2007 so that we could work together to enhance the safety of our employees while working on the right-of-way. The task force is chaired by System Safety. It consists of 3 subway managers, 3 TWU members, and also 2 System Safety members. The task force initially conducted a comprehensive study of track safety and made numerous recommendations which led to improvements in communications, flagging rules, job planning, and training. They continue to meet regularly to address flagging as well as work procedures. They also evaluate near-miss close call incidents, common findings from the Joint Labor Management Track Safety Audit Team, and new issues that arise as operations and equipment change. The next initiative that I'd like to talk about is the TWU Management Joint Audit Program. The Office of System Safety, together with the Transport Workers Union, conducts routine joint audits of work along the right-of-way. This effort began in 2007, and the teams average over 300 audits per year. The teams assess compliance with rules and procedures. They identify deficiencies in equipment and training, and they also take a look at items such as flagging rules, third rail safety, overall job setup, housekeeping, job safety briefings, and personal protective equipment. Any problems that are found are corrected right on the site. Detailed weekly reports are also provided, and those are provided to the New York City Transit President, and the TW President and the appropriate departments also get a copy of those reports on a weekly basis. System Safety also analyzes the findings from audits to identify trends and common deficiencies that we can identify corrective actions to correct. So that completes our report.
Any comments or questions on Cheryl's report? Okay.
And Steve Heidel from New York City Bus will speak about the Bus Operator Action Committee.
Good morning, everybody. Department of Buses is going to present our Bus Operator Action Committee. This is a joint labor management initiative with the TW Local 100. It's chaired jointly by the safety officer, chief safety officer from Department of Buses, along with the designee of the TW president. In this particular case, it's Frank Austin, who's the division chair for MAPSTO up in the Bronx. But it's a joint labor management initiative that enables operators who are on the committee to present their safety concerns and recommendations to management and to obtain a better understanding of the concepts and policies and actions which are being pursued on a regular basis by Department of Buses. The BOAC committee was created in 2002 in response to a serious assault on a bus operator, which essentially a customer attacked a bus operator with a knife. In that particular case, the operator defended himself and turned a knife on the assailant, and the assailant was killed. But that created a large, hue and cry for some action to safeguard the bus operators, and the Bus Operator Action Committee was formed as a result of that. Initially, BOAC worked collaboratively with management to develop conflict avoidance training, which was delivered on multiple occasions to the entire workforce and is currently incorporated into our new operator training program. So every new operator coming through induction training gets this conflict avoidance training. They also worked with management on developing assault mitigation programs, which included identifying procedures to clarify and improve reporting procedures to assure that assault crimes were appropriately being reported and tracked so that appropriate action plans could be taken to mitigate them. And really importantly, during that early phases of BOAC, Department of Buses was piloting onboard security cameras. And BOAC worked really closely with management in developing material that we disseminated to the workforce, which explained the program and the functionality of hardware so that the operators who were out on the buses would be receptive to the use of cameras on their buses. That was a major challenge because of the intrusion of privacy that was perceived as a result of that. BOAC was expanded in 2009 after the tragic death of a bus operator who was killed while on duty. And the role of BOAC really became much more results-oriented, and they became the champions for rolling out the bus barrier and the bus security camera program. As a result, we are on track to have all of our local service buses equipped with barriers by the middle of 2016. We have 2,200 plus buses with security cameras on them. We're no longer retrofitting existing buses. We're only bringing in all buses that are purchased are equipped with cameras. So by 2022, the entire fleet will be camera ready and camera equipped. In 2011, the BOAC committee facilitated the Transport Workers Assault Conference in Brooklyn, which was hosted by New York City Transit along with the TW and ATU. The highlight of the conference was a panel discussion on law enforcement perspective on transit assaults, with the district attorneys from all 5 boroughs serving as participants. And it was attended by representatives from both labor and management from properties throughout the East Coast, including SEPTA, WMATA, and some other larger properties. BOAC successfully advocated bringing the New York State Transit Watch program to New York City Transit and MTA Bus, and traveled as a group to Albany to lobby for passage of the Bus Operator Assault Bill. BOAC has also initiated an outreach program to New York's Police Department, precinct leadership, to focus awareness on high assault locations and to work with strategies with the local precincts to mitigate some assault concerns that they've had. Lastly, I'm working with the current BOAC membership on developing a near-miss reporting program which will allow us to capture onboard video of incidents which can be used to enhance our bus operator training program, while also giving us a greater insights into the tremendous challenges that our operators face every day. The success of BOAC as advocates for bus operator safety would not have been achieved without both labor and management's willingness to trust each other and to accept the fact that we share a common goal, bus operator safety. Thank you.
Andrew?
Do you have any indication or a sense of what percentage of assaults on bus drivers are when they're in the vehicle versus when they're at the end of a line, on a break, whatever?
I don't have that at the top of my head, but I can provide that to you. The majority of them, they're on the bus.
And the barriers will ostensibly fix that.
It helps it a lot, yes. There are several instances where we have had, assaults on an operator that the severity of the assaults were, significantly mitigated because of the existence of a barrier.
Thanks.
So that will lead us to Lori Ebbinghausen speaking about the confidential close call reporting system program at Long Island Railroad.
Good morning. At the Long Island Railroad, we've had a long-standing partnership between management and labor to promote the value of safety with our employees, our customers, and to serve our communities in our catchment area. What I want to focus on, which is something that Steve touched on, is a new venture for us, which is a formal confidential close call reporting system program. So why focus on close calls? For every one major event fatality, one can look back and see that there were probably 10 minor accidents or injuries, 30 that may have been property damage related leading up to that one major event, and another 1,000 or so that were precursors leading up to that. What we're focusing on is not just chipping away at the tip of the iceberg, but melting that iceberg from underneath so that we can prevent those major things from happening and going from a reactive risk management approach to a more proactive risk management approach. So when you look at the confidential close call reporting, it engages labor and management in a very different dynamic and a different relationship. It's voluntary, it's confidential, but more importantly, out of all of those bullets, it's a collaborative problem-solving model that focuses not on individuals, but really focuses on the problems and the systems that may be leading up to those events, that major event occurring. A key component of the confidential close call reporting system is the peer review team. And what's nice about the peer review team is that it engages our regulator, the FRA, it engages labor, and it engages management in this collaborative problem-solving process. All of the parties take their hats off as labor, management, and regulator and really focus on what's happening in the environment according to our employees and trying to come up with solutions for those issues. The reports themselves are funneled through NASA. NASA de-identifies, they take away the names of the employees, they take away details that may lead to identifying the employees so that the group can really focus on what the issues are and come up with some recommendations for corrective action. The corrective actions then are funneled through a senior support team for those actions that require a commitment of resources and attention. For the peer review team, we're one of the first properties in the country to actually engage all of our labor partners right from the beginning, so all 9 of our partners signed on to this program. The thing we wanted to show you was that we actually had an implementing memorandum of understanding signing event, which is where we formally commit to engaging in this process.
This is an ambitious undertaking.
This is a great program for everybody. The carrier and the employees got together on this.
Program that's really designed to engage every level employee in promoting safety at the Long Island Railroad.
If they make a mistake, they'll be able to report it without fear of discipline.
Essentially, it's C3RS, superscript 3 for the 3 C's.
Confidential close call reporting system, many folks call it C3RS.
And so this program has a way of giving people the protections they need, confidential protections they need, to report the things they see without fear of reprisals.
I'm proud for several different reasons. One, we all need to move the bar to get to safety. And it's real easy to accept the status quo and be reluctant to leave the status quo. And this is an agreement that leaves the status quo for all of us. It certainly was uncomfortable for all of us to get there, yet we did it.
Everybody that came to the signing, all the general chairman and the labor, got together with management for the safety of not only the riding public, but for the membership, the employees. And I think the key to the whole program is going to be communication. I think we're going to get off to a great start as long as we continue to communicate and make sure that everybody knows that safety is and always will be priority number 1. And we've taken a huge step in that direction, and everybody is on the same page here that we are going to move in a direction that's going to put us way above everybody else in the safety end.
we know that there are events that sometimes occur that could lead up to that big event. And what this program is really designed to do is to search out what those smaller events are, to see if we can get from our employees suggestions for how to improve the safety amongst their fellow employees, in particular work locations. The idea is that the more that we know, the better position that we'll be in to ensure the safety of our employees, our customers, and the communities that we serve.
Would be really beneficial for the operators. Daily, they have to make hundreds and hundreds of quick decisions, and always with the fear that they'll be disciplined. They'll be more comfortable in making moves, and if they make a mistake, they'll be able to report it without fear of discipline, and hopefully they'll come up with ways to improve the system to reduce those errors.
We have guys that work the shops, heavy equipment. The reason we signed on to this is we think it's a great deal between the employees and the carrier. This is something that I think will move us on into the future and bring bigger and better things to the Long Island Railroad.
It's not only just important for the employee themselves, but you also have to think about your staff that works with you, your peers, your friend, your buddy, your family. At the end of the day, we want everybody to come into work, do your job safely, be effective, be part of a good, productive group so we can provide great service to our customers. But we also want you to go home safe and sound to come back.
So that video really captures the essence of what the Confidential Close Call Reporting System program is all about. At the Long Island Railroad, we embarked on this March 29th. Our goal is to be system-wide by March of next year, and toward that goal, you'll see that our implementation strategy, every 3 months we expand to a new location, new shopping yard area, to help to develop and foster that relationship to get to the events and get to the corrective actions. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Neil?
Ms. Ebenhausen, thank you. I'm excited to hear what you're doing. It's fantastic. Your representation of the iceberg, I think, is a very important concept for us to all to think about. And I'm looking forward to hearing what we learn. I want to tie this to the earlier discussion of metrics. How will we know it's working? What metrics do we imagine putting into place tied to the reporting system so we do have a way of gauging whether it's working?
I know the peer review team is considering metrics with every readiness for the next expansion. So there are things like the volume of the reports that they're receiving, the quality of the reports they're seeing, the number of corrective actions that are able to be generated, but not only generated, then successfully implemented and monitored for impact. So those would be, I guess, the 4 metrics that I would anticipate that we'd continue to use and then formalize and focus on as we move forward.
If you apply system safety principles to the analysis of data and you're looking at severity of either end result incidents that occur or near misses and frequency of occurrence, those would be measures as well. I mean, to say that we need to shrink the iceberg is accurate, but if you shrink that part of the iceberg where it's the lower severity incidents and you still have the higher severity incidents out there, you haven't reached it. And there are some near miss incidents where people just, it catches their breath and they go, wow. There, but for the sake of one action, one person, or one thing, we avoided a catastrophic incident. And so those, I'm sure, will be part of the dialogue.
Okay, so we'll move on to Steve Chait from Metro North, and he'll discuss the safety meeting organizational structure at Metro North.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Chait. I'll be reporting on the safety meeting organization for Metro North Railroad. Safety meeting organization is a pyramid of teams which starts at the local level within the districts. The structure is designed to promote team building and create an ownership of safety. Employees can address and seek to resolve safety concerns within the locality. Larger unresolved safety concerns are funneled upward and communication and resources are funneled down. Local safety teams consist of primarily represented employees and are chaired by management. They meet once or twice a month depending on the size of the location. These local teams are at the base of the structure and provide an opportunity for free discussion. Supervisors and employees are reminded that they are responsible for their own safety. The Office of System Safety provides the local teams their incident injury records so that they may identify root causes and possible mitigations. The team documents all open items which are then tracked through closure. Lessons learned or unresolved items from the local teams are addressed at the district. This is a mixed group of representative management employees which meets at least once a month. The district reviews the district safety plan, district incident injury, trends, capital and operating projects, and shares information gained from within the locals. At the top of the pyramid is the cooperative and executive leadership. Although separate meetings, the steering and senior team assist cultivating safety culture through policy changes, communication, and identifying either monetary or other needed resources. These teams are advised on accomplishments and on the overseer of the entire program. Thank you.
So we'll ask Pashko Kamaj from Bridges and Tunnels to discuss the safety task force at Bridges and Tunnels.
Good morning, everybody. Today I will talk to you briefly about one of the things that we do at Bridges and Tunnels in order to advance our safety program and our safety awareness in our agency. A safety task force, which was created back in 2013 by then our president, Jim Ferrara, was initiated and comprised by labor and management representatives. Members of our three main unions, SOBA, BTO, BA, and Local 1931 comprise this group. In addition, Chief of Staff, Director of Maintenance, Location Director Managers, and Managers of Safety are part of this group. In addition to this, our Safety and Health Department, in its decentralized management approach, has a permanent member at each of our facilities. And they also provide significant input in this task force. So what is a task force? Safety task force. It is a partnership between labor and management, and it's an independent committee which meets on monthly basis, on rotating basis from facility to facilities. As you know, we have 9 facilities, 7 bridges and 2 tunnels, and meetings are held on monthly basis, on rotating basis. So at least one of the facilities gets to be seen once a year. What do? We review safety concerns and speak with workers, speak about their concerns, safety issues, discuss new ideas to improve safety and prevent accidents, review accidents, near misses, and accident prevention measures, discuss new projects. As you know, we have many projects ongoing, and we want everybody to be informed and also aware of their ongoing projects. So in essence, we strive to promote safety awareness, collaboration, and safety issues between labor and management. So the importance of the task force is that we memorialize all the findings in a memo, which is in a manual, which is kept at each facility. Reports are written and distributed among all the players that we mentioned before. They're written and kept at each facility. Recommendations are in writing and by photos. So we show, a lot of times we'll have a before and after, where we see a problem before and then how it was resolved after. Results are all distributed among all of our workforce at each facility. Lastly, the task force findings are incorporated in our Bridges and Tunnels in-house OSHA training, which is a robust training program offered by our OSHA-trained staff in our office, in our Safety and Health office. And OSHA 10 is offered for our administrative employees, and OSHA 30 for our engineering department. So all of this is done in order to advance our delivery of service in an efficient and in a safe manner. Thank you.
Let me put to you a hypothetical and see if I can understand where you're going. There is a 5-car automobile accident coming out of a toll booth on the Verrazano Bridge or wherever, all right? Now, do you, at that point, have either a police or other safety examination to determine why did that happen? Where did it go? Is that what you photograph? Is that what you document?
Every incident that happens on our bridges or on our facilities is documented. We have our bridge and tunnel officers who directly are involved in investigating the cause first, and then learning from the accident, and then memorialize it in a way that
all right,
we can...
Now you have photographed it, you have come to a conclusion. Do you make that information available to the staff that operates the bridge and those who control it?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
Well, in a way, we have just created something we call a manual, which for every facility, every findings that we have during an accident or investigation, it's posted at the manual. It's also discussed during these safety meetings or these safety conferences that we have at each facility.
Have you given some thought to the possibility of trying to incorporate some of the lessons learned by the police department on Comcast in terms of having periodic senior staff meetings that go through specific cases and say exactly what has happened and what you have found?
I think you mean ComStat, right?
You're right.
Okay.
We do collaborate with the police department as well as any local agencies such as fire department on many issues, but especially when it comes to investigating accidents, we definitely collaborate with them on all levels.
The key is not only just learning it, but getting the information out and then implementing the safety procedures. Is that something you're trying to do?
That is our goal.
Then I congratulate you.
Thank you so much.
Any further comments, Bridges and Tunnels? If not, move on.
Okay. We'll move on to contractor safety oversight, and we'll ask Peter Koner to start with the discussion on MTA capital construction and New York City Transit CPM contractor oversight.
Good morning. As Ann said, I will be presenting on behalf of both CPM and MTA capital construction. Jim Meritz will comment on CPM questions if you have any. The contractor safety management is owned by the contractor. What both CPM and MTA provide is a compliance monitoring. And the compliance monitoring is comprised of elements such as review of safety programs, HASP, APP, HSAP. These are the ones that the contractor submits for approval for each contract. Safe work plans, review, approvals, 6 weeks look ahead, which means planning and getting readiness for construction activities ahead. Readiness review meetings which address the contractor's readiness to execute operations. Hazard log review reports, checklist development, and job progress meeting participation. The monitoring consists of daily walkthroughs, site inspections that are done jointly with the contractor and the CCM or construction safety management. Daily reports, both contractor and safety representatives of the CM's offices. Daily hazard log entries, bi-weekly joint hazard assessment, which is an audit function. Monthly walkthroughs with the executives of the program. Monthly reports that go to the CM and to the project management. Monthly program safety meetings that bring in everybody, including the project managers, to discuss activities, incidents, highlights, best work practices, etc. for the months. Quarterly assessments that essentially evaluate the contractor's performance, and finally ACE evaluations that provide a evaluation that goes and enables the contractor to bid on the next contract for the MTA. The contractor safety oversight elements are job hazard assessment results that are reviewed by the CM with the contractor, monthly safety status report, again reviewed with the CM and the contractor, development mitigation, a leading indicator strategy. I mean, what we really are reporting today are the lagging indicators. That's an event in the past. Our focus now is to address the leading indicators, that is the prevention strategy, being proactive to address the things that can prevent from incidents happening. And this may be changing. And what we have reports that highlight 3 to 4 top lagging indicators for the months, and we demand that the contractor devises a mitigation strategy to address it. Month-to-month performance measure reports. We issue month-to-month reports that give them an interim report as to how they perform and what shortages are to the objectives. Quarterly assessments that are reviewed with the CM and the contractor, and obviously the ACE evaluation reports that comprise the ACE. Both agencies, representative CPM and CC, are also concerned with public and customer safety. And that includes DOT compliance, then signage, signal striping on streets, work zone security, and prevention of incidents, not only to workers but to the public, pedestrian crossings, street sidewalk and crosswalk maintenance, slip, trip, fall, lighting, snow and ice removal on sidewalks and crosswalks, application of pedestrian managers in impacted areas where the construction has truly impacted the traffic of pedestrians, traffic enforcement agents, that's an endeavor that we have with the city and New York Police Department, city agency coordination initiatives, that has been a very big, that had a very big impact on especially on 2nd Avenue, where we enlisted the help of sanitation, community police agencies, and DOB and DOT, compliance and inspection reports that go out weekly and monthly. Finally, we have partnered with the community and installed a community information center on 2nd Avenue. We have learned that education of the public has helped us in their acceptance of our presence on 2nd Avenue. And I'm happy to report that year to date we had over 14,000 people since 2013 visit the 2nd Avenue subway, community information center. In closing, I'd like to say that between CPM and capital construction, there's 7.5 million hours annually that are being put in, which represents almost 4,000 workers. And I would venture to say that we are probably one of the largest trade union employers in the city. And I believe that the program and oversight that we put out produces very good results, as we are on 12 months rolling basis for this year below the labor statistics standards for lost time and recordable incidents. Thank you.
So we'll move on to ask Pashko Kamaj to come back and speak about the Construction Safety Council at Bridges and Tunnels.
Hello again. In addition to our robust construction standards and procedures, which have built-in safety and health protocols, which are reviewed and approved by various departments within our agency and within our different departments, we've established recently a forum called Safety Construction Council, which is a forum across many disciplines to discuss safety and health, to discuss fire prevention at our construction facilities, construction projects, and to address any safety concerns during these delivery of these services. The goal of the Safety Construction Council is to foster and recognize the safety excellence at various construction projects, and to learn from anything that we see, and if we can make it better. To learn from any near misses, to learn from anything that was shown to be a problematic issue, and to become better at what we do. The first meeting was held just a couple of weeks ago on October 16th in 2015, and it was a successful collaboration of many parties, again, to ensure safe and efficient delivery of services for our agency. The Safety Council, Construction Council, is supported by our president, by various departments, by the various department heads, engineering and construction, safety and health, and participants in this council are some of our major contractors and vendors who come in an open forum. We discuss issues, problems, and again, the one and only goal is to see if we can improve our safety, to get a better delivery of services in a safe and an efficient manner. Thank you.
Finally, we'll move on to Chris D'Antonio from MTA Risk, and he'll be giving you an overview of the OSIP program.
Thank you. Good morning. Chris D'Antonio with MTA Risk and Insurance Management. MTA has been sponsoring owner-controlled insurance programs for many years. For those of you who may not be familiar with the concept, owner-controlled insurance is a methodology by which we insure all contractors and their subcontractors on a capital construction job under one insurance program. Some may know it as wrap-up insurance because we wrap all those contractors under one blanket of coverage. There's some advantages to OSIP, but today I'm going to speak primarily about the safety advantages of OSIP. And the main advantage we have here is that we have a loss-sensitive program, which means if we have fewer losses, our insurance costs are reduced. By having that incentive to us, we provide additional safety services in support of the other agency safety initiatives. And we have to promote uniform standards across agencies, as well as enhanced approaches that go more toward a consultative approach than to a enforcement of rules approach. And that consultative model has come down to this formula that we presently use. We visit each contract site 2 times per week. You may ask, why 2? We found that if you visit a site every day, the contractor just looks to you for what they need to do to comply with safety. But if we go once a week, once a month, they get very predictive at when we're going to show up and become safe just for that day. So we found that 2 days a week is about the right mix that keeps the contractor in charge of their own safety, but on their toes in participating in the program. Of course, we like to participate in progress meetings where we can understand upcoming work activities and get access to the highest levels of management from both the contractor and the agency. We produce written reports with photographs. These photographs show the safety concerns, both positive and negative, so that the contractor is aware of what we're talking about and has a written record of what we see. We also like to emphasize positive as well as negative. We in the safety industry have a very bad reputation of being the people who tell you what's wrong every day, what you can do to be better. But we'd like to also work with some contractors to reinforce those positive behaviors that they witness on the jobs. We also look to have a closing conference with the resident engineer of the construction team so that our agency representative is aware of what we've done. And this process has been quite successful over the years. We began back in '99 with the rolling wraps on the capital programs. And back then we were looking at approximately 175 accidents per 100 million constructed under capital construction. And over the years, we've reduced that number down to approximately 43. So we've seen a dramatic reduction in the cost of both the insurance and the claims that come out of this program, as well as enhancing the protection of the public and our riders. Thank you.
Mr. Mertler? Let me see if I can understand what you've just said. You go to the sites, you do a wrap-up insurance for all of the subs, correct?
General contractor and subcontractors, yes.
Okay. And then you go to the sites and see if there are problems, potential or actual, correct?
Yes.
And then you document what you perceive on that occasion, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, what do you do in terms of communicating that information to the contractor?
Visits are conducted with the contractor's on-site safety engineer. By contract, every contractor must have a safety engineer. So we conduct our survey with that person. So the contractor's personnel is with us and present. We also invite the resident engineer, our representative, to join us.
Okay. And do you document that you've communicated that information to them?
Yes.
And if you come back a week later and you see the problem, what do you do then?
Well, we track the recommendations we submit. They're dated and timed, so we know when we submitted them, and we track the length of time they stay open. If a recommendation isn't corrected within the next visit, which is typically 48 to 72 hours, we will then escalate the discussion to the resident engineer. And if those recommendations remain open even longer, that's something that might get escalated to the progress meeting where our larger executive force is available.
I'm less interested in the paper trail, and I'm less interested in the communication to follow up as in terms of a sense on the part of the contractor or the subcontractor that in the event they do not comply, there are consequences. What is that? What have you done to do that?
Okay, there's a number of consequences built into our contracts. First and foremost, we have the ability to direct if the contractor fails to comply, we can hold a safety stand down, whereby we stop the work activities for a certain period of time and hold a a safety discussion about the topic. We can hold safety stand-downs. We can, actually, if push comes to shove, we can have the hazard abated by another contractor and back charged to the contractor, as well as other.
I have a problem with that. When you do the safety stand-down at, let's say, hypothetically, the Henry Hudson Bridge, the people who are driving across that bridge ain't getting over there very fast, are they?
That can be an issue.
All right. So, do you have a provision in your contracts and your subcontracts that provides that through some arbitrable method, you could assess a penalty for persistent failure to attend to safety requirements?
Those programs exist, but they exist agency by agency. I'm primarily focused on an insurance program.
Are you reinsured?
Yes.
So you have coverage beyond what you have, right?
Yes.
But you do not police to determine whether or not any consequences in fact do occur. Is that correct?
We do work in conjunction with the agency representatives on site to address these hazards and assess consequences.
Respectfully, I suggest that that's a gap that somebody ought to look at.
Well, I got to weigh in here because I wear a number of hats. One's a CEO, one's chairman, but also a long history in safety because in 1982 I came to be the assistant to the person that was running system safety at the time. That job, Cheryl Kennedy's here. OSIP is very important. Risk assessment is very important, but there are distinct differences between how you manage a risk assessment from hazard insurance standpoint versus a system safety program. Each one of these individuals, through their staff or the CEO, have the ability and authority to shut down a job site for an unsafe condition. If that means there's an impact to service, that decision is taken. That issue was changed in New York City Transit in 1984 when David Gunn told me I had that authority. So that was a paradigm shift in terms of impact to service, impact to a construction site, internal or external. And we need to separate the two, because if we flinch with respect to impacts to customers in terms of service, and we don't take that issue lightly, we do not take that issue lightly, because to just arbitrarily shut down and create crowding conditions is something we don't want to do either. But we do make a distinct difference between that which is a risk assessment from an insurance standpoint versus that which is a safety assessment in terms of unsafe conditions.
I do not quarrel with that one iota. My point was somewhat different, and maybe I did not articulate it clearly. My point was that if you find a persistent violator of safety standards, do you have in your contracts a mechanism, and do you enforce the mechanism so that the contractor suffers an economic or other penalty? And I just wanted to know, A, does it exist, and B, is it enforced?
The answer to the first question is clearly yes. The answer to the second question is subject to interpretation. In one of the presentations, they talked about ACE evaluations. We have been continually constructively criticized by third parties that we do not effectively utilize ACE evaluations, whether it be for safety issues, conformance with MWDBE goals, or a variety of different issues. The effectiveness of that clause, I totally agree with you, is based on your level of enforcement. And I mean, I've used this phrase in discussions with staff, and I got to come back to that. The British term hanging somebody from a yardarm was for a reason, so you made an example of somebody. And every once in a while, you may have to do that, and we recognize that. The structure that you see today in terms of presentations may look orchestrated or scripted, may not, I don't know. But the benefit of a safety committee now in the organization and the lead up, because we had a pre-meeting, and the pre-meeting, the agency heads attended, I attended, and there was a sharing of, and actually there's meetings before that that the safety representatives have, and there's a sharing of information in terms of how they're using the tools they have and other people can utilize. So the awareness of safety is at even higher levels than what it was before, well beyond the safety representatives in the organization, and that's healthy. The other thing that's healthy, if you go back 30 years, and I don't smile because it's funny, I just smile because it's a sense of accomplishment. It took us 5 or 6 years before people realized we were removing graffiti from the system, but that's what happens because it happens over time. 30 years ago, if you had a labor management safety meeting, and I think Vinny would attest to this, generally, that was the venue where every bitter dispute between labor and management was meted out. The management used it in a punitive way to discipline employees. Labor used it in a way to get management's attention because they'd shut the place down if conditions, required that. But we've come to a totally different place where the representatives of labor and management work jointly together to identify hazards and get to a different level. And we need to be able to continue to do that. But your point's well taken, Chuck. It's just that we do need to make that distinction. And the last comment I want to make is there's going to be a discussion later today at the board meeting about the capital program. And we're going to talk about, hopefully we get board approval on a plan to resubmit to the capital program review board. And you'll hear me use language about the governor wanting us to deliver the program faster, cheaper, and better. And one of the ways we can certainly deliver it probably better, faster, and cheaper also aligns itself with safety goals we may have. Because there's been a reluctance on our part sometimes to do out-of-phase closures or extended closures to get work done. But to do work in a station, for example, at New York City Transit, where you're closing it down at night, opening up every morning, or closing part of the station and subjecting the customers to, safety hazards that you would rather not, or controlled mitigated safety hazards and extend the work, is maybe not the best way to do the business. But that'll be part of a longer discussion. Sir?
Forgive me, let me just make a point. I learned it as chairman of the State Insurance Fund, so it's based on actual experience. A contractor and a subcontractor has, among his many areas of fear, the possibility that he is either not insurable or that his insurability requires a higher cost. And that's why OSIP provides you a tool that is quite different from all the other tools you have in your bag, and all of which are being used. But OSIP gives you the opportunity to turn to that contractor and to that subcontractor and say, we're going to file a report that says that you are a persistent violator of safety standards, and this will have an impact on your insurability. You watch them move.
Any further comments or discussions from anyone? Yes, Vinny?
So, obviously we've used the word labor management in the same sentence countless times today. And on behalf of labor, while I don't speak for every labor organization in the agency, I feel very confident to say that labor is incredibly appreciative that we are included on all of these various programs, whether it's confidential close call, various task force. Labor is welcomed, to be a part of it because, like you just mentioned, and it's a great point, Tom, those were the only settings where we get to scream and yell about stuff. And now when we can prioritize things specifically in certain categories, it's welcomed. I mean, it's very always easy to say, well, safety first, using it as leverage, and that's not what it is anymore. Because the labor unions want this system to be equally as safe as everybody in this room, and the front lines and the people that are working in the system usually are the ones at most risk, along with our customers, obviously. So with that said, I am very pleased that there is this inclusion and that representatives of labor are involved in groups and meetings that they've never been involved before. There's a but. If we're part of it, we want to see the things implemented that we learn from these programs. When we do safety sand downs and management comes out in the field and mixes it up with the rank and file and somebody comes to the forefront with a concern or a complaint, that person, and somebody used it in the presentation, the trust level, that person is going to want to see that little thing fixed. Because if that one little spotlight in the corner of that yard doesn't get replaced, it all feels as though things fall on deaf ears. So while all of these programs are new and welcomed, and this committee is new and needed and welcomed, truly in the coming months and possibly year and moving forward, what we learn from it and what we do with it is going to be the key. Because the trust level from our workforce is leaning in the right direction, where I'm not going to get in trouble for that. It doesn't always have to be saying something without the fear of retaliation, but that is a culture that was here for quite some time. We're moving away from it, and the only way that it works is if we're heard.
John, you had a question?
Thank you, Tom. I just have a question with respect to, I guess, both Metro North and the LIRR's speed compliance program. And I was just curious if there's such a concept as going too slow, if that's recorded or if we're just focusing on speed in excess of the optimal.
I'll start it, but I'll let Joe and Pat and the safety officials from the railroads talk. There's certainly a focus on people going too fast. You didn't raise that. When it comes to schedule adherence,
That's always written in the.
yeah, but when it comes to schedule adherence, because when you lay out a schedule for a trip of a train from one terminal to another, you are assessing its running time between stops, its dwell time at stations, et cetera. And you're constantly monitoring that to see that it is accurate. When you have outliers, somebody who is not meeting the schedule, not close to meeting the schedule, you generally look at it with supervision to see if it's some unique characteristic that that train sees in terms of inordinate dwell time at a station, or like in the case of the Long Island Railroad, you got 7 branches feeding like a main line, the slots being, perfectly meeting. And then you do further analysis if you have somebody that, for lack of a better phrase, is dragging the line. And then you take an action. But it's generally not on a case-by-case, and it's generally on a case-by-case basis when you get to that level of analysis. Not that you're standing over somebody's shoulder and making sure they're riding the curves hot, so to speak. There is a focus on schedule adherence. There has to be, but not at the expense of safety. But yeah, Joe, Pat, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll add from the standpoint that, John, one of the things that we've been doing is, and you'll see even between last month and this month, because it was one of the questions, we're pulling the records, okay? And what we've got is and it goes to Neil's point too, in terms of, are you seeing a payback on what you're following through on? And not only are we seeing the compliance that's going on, but we're seeing that people that have made a mistake have called that into the close call reporting system. So you get a very good feel for whether or not that is being adhered to. The other part, and I think it goes to what you were already commenting on to me today in terms of a train that's coming in late. Today, for example, because we already had reports of low adhesion, we turned around and told our engineers to not go aggressively. We actually have an alert we put out that says do not exceed 30 miles an hour going in on a platform. So, you're going to get a day like today where we will get a preponderance of the trains because of the conditions that are out there, but it's a safe response. So from the standpoint that I want to make it clear that in the very beginning, there was such a focus on the on-time performance that anybody that ran slow was brought in on an investigation to go and say, where did you lose your time and how did it happen? What we have right now is a much more workable schedule that we had to adjust to, and we now go and get to evaluate. And I'm going to be candid, 9 times out of 10 what we're looking for is the people that have gone too fast, because that's where your accidents are going to take place. In terms of people going too slow, you're going to find that out very quickly because our schedules are so concise that you lose and Tom kind of referred to it, you lose your slot to go and get in, and then we have a further impact that goes on. So that becomes a review that goes back to our road foreman and everybody else on it when that's out, but not to the level that you turn and say, are we pulling it to go and look for the people that are going slow? You find out about the slow because you'll get all the complaints. You'll get the people that are turning around that are talking about that their train was not on time and it did not get into the station on time.
No, I think it's been covered. This is a safety meeting. From a safety perspective, usually going too fast is the biggest concern. From an operation performance issue, the focus on somebody not being able to run according to their schedule is part of the operational performance monitoring. That's why these people didn't report on that. It's another part of the business that we do every day is trying to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure whatever's causing it, whether it's somebody operating too slow or the schedule doesn't work or the signal system has a problem or what an infrastructure issue, you're always looking for things operationally that cause you on a regular basis. I mean,
You can look at the 750 trains that we run every day and figure out which ones are on time most of the time and which ones aren't. And then you need, for those that aren't, you need to sort of devise and figure out why aren't they running on schedule. And that's a different analysis that you undertake. And, you know, there can be a multitude of reasons. I just went through some of them, but you need to look through and do that evaluation and figure that out to try and fix the issue that's causing you that problem.
A year ago, Metro North's on-time performance by line was in a far different place than what it is today. There was a clamor of concern by a number of people outside the agency and outside the board focusing on on-time performance. And Joe and his team basically said, we will focus on that which is important, the underpinnings, deliver good service, reliability, safety, et cetera, and the on-time performance will follow because of the other measures, and that's where they've gotten to. But it's more than just a locomotive engineer or train operator operating at the extremes, meaning just below the maximum speed limit. It's good track conditions, it's no slow speed orders, it's a whole host of things, and you have to have a holistic solution to it. My last comment before we break is that we've heard news has reached agreement on a bill that includes a measure to extend the deadline for positive train control 3 years to December 31st, 2018. If you want to pray, if you want to do whatever you want to do to get the Senate to the same place, we'll be happy. But that doesn't mean we've let up on our efforts in the event that does not happen, and we have to make a decision as to what we do on January 1st, 2016. Which includes also some information for board members in terms of what their responsibilities would be. But right now, there appears to be a solution on the House side, and hopefully the Senate will follow. And we've got a senator that is concerned with one of our systems here in the area, and we need to be able to convince him, hopefully, that we need to get an extension. Nothing further. I'd like to get the motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, sir, and everybody.
Please enter your PIN followed by the pound key. I'm sorry, that PIN does not match the conference ID. Please enter your PIN followed by the pound key. To access a list of phone features at any time during the conference, press *0. This conference is in lecture mode. Conference starting.
testing. So that's fine. Testing 1, 2, testing. It's muted, so I really don't want to do this.
Oh, well, yeah, it's just as long as they can hear it. What response did you get? No.
Insurance with safety in the future, but even that wasn't so bad.
Test 1, 2.
If everybody would take their seat, please, we'll get started in 1 minute. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October meeting of the MTA Board. Do we have any public speakers, Mr. Morello?
Yes, sir. We have 16 signed up. Good turnout for a rainy day. I would remind all of our speakers that we ask you all to keep your comments to our 2-minute limit out of respect and fairness for all other speakers. When you get to about the 90-second mark, you will hear and see the lights and tone. And that's just a reminder, you don't have to stop that second, but you should begin to wind down your remarks. The first speaker is William Henderson. He'll be followed by Esther Mata.
Good morning. We congratulate and express our appreciation to the governor, the mayor, the chairman, and all the MTA staff and board members who worked so hard on capital program funding. A resolution was critical to the health of our city, state, and region. We applaud all of you for crafting a solution that combines substantial state resources, restoration of the city's leading role in funding transit infrastructures, and the MTA's commitment to contracting, procurement, and other efficiencies. Even with an agreement, there's immense capital needs, and we have to look to the future of capital programs and recognize that as much as is committed to this capital program, more will be needed in the future. While securing resources are difficult, the payoff is well worth the effort. We've been making this case for the past 2 years in a partnership with the Urban Land Institute, and in our contacts with business and civic leaders, our release of Keeping New York on Track, and in our active report highlighting the value of investing in the capital program. Through this project, we sought the perspective of many business and community leaders and soon found that to a person, they're convinced of the critical importance of capital program spending and public transportation to our region. And they're willing to provide the resources even if they're going to be paying for it. What these individuals are lacking is nuanced understanding of public transportation and the role of capital spending and an assurance that their interests are going to be reflected in the planning process. It's been a painful process the last 2 capital programs. We feel that one reason for this is a lack of connection between the capital planning process and stakeholders. The PCAC agrees with the Reinvention Commission that there have to be ongoing partnerships, not just an outreach effort around the launch of a capital program proposal. We need a continuous and transparent process of two-way communication among MTA elected officials and all other stakeholders. MTA has to communicate progress and priorities, but it has to also engage the private sector and larger community in an ongoing dialogue. Only through doing this can we avoid history repeating itself for the 2020-2024 capital program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Esther Mata, who will be followed by Sandra Lennon.
Good morning. My name is Esther Mota. I work with GCS Agents. I also, it's a subcontract company by the MTA for paratransit services. We work at the call center. We were here last month, and it's about the $152,900,000 approved contract for GCS to run the call center, and how it was broken up for certain numbers per year, and how we figured that it's not being followed. Apart from that, we're struggling on the floor to find a seat, and management is slightly manipulating the way that things look, putting people in the break rooms and so forth, so it doesn't look like we're just walking around without a seat trying to find a station to work. I will tell you that I greatly appreciate your attention from last meeting. You have started to implement and do your due diligence into what we're telling you. We greatly do appreciate that. Let's see, I do just also want to reiterate that there's a little bit of bullying after every single event that GCS, TWU holds together. We lose another member. Edwin Guzman was fired after the MTA board meeting. I am right now up for termination, and I am debating it with my team lead. And I feel like a lot of us come into work, and because the trains that we take the trains, the MTA trains, the trains that take us into work, if they're running delayed and we're stuck underground, we can't call them and we can't make it into our shift on time, we're out of luck. And then when we don't find a computer to actually sign in, it's a headache, okay? We do appreciate all of your help. It's been so good in the last 30 days to see the advancement that the company is trying to do after you guys have started to say something. So thank you for that. My team leads are also, my members, colleagues are also here to speak with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Moda. For the next 14 speakers, I'm calling you in the order in which Ms. Moda signed you in. Sandra Lennon, to be followed by Joy Williams.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Lennon. I'm an ex-employee of GCS. Like I explained last meeting that I was terminated because I supported the union. We spoke to the Inspector General Monday. They were at GCS yesterday. We're basically here because we want to know what the findings was and the results of the investigations that I guess the MTA has done. But there is a big difference. I've been hearing from a lot of members that there's a big difference upstairs. The quality of air, the heat. They're still working on the bed bug situation, but the team leads is not as harsh as they were. And I thank you for that.
Joy Williams will be followed by Dahlia Oakley.
Joy would like to give her time back to us. Joy was another member that we lost after the last meeting. And we also have another member that after the last meeting ended up in the hospital after having what the doctor said bug bites in her body after arriving at work. I myself have marks of bed bugs from the back of my knee, on the back of my knees from my seat. After I removed the seat, the feeling went away. Took a few weeks for the marks to go away. But something needs to be done over our office. We would love to invite you to come into the building, come into our office. It's a 24-hour facility. You can see us there all during the rush hours of 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can see agents walking around looking for seats. We would love either a different setup or maybe more seating, a different location if need be. But we are there to work. We love what we do. We love to help the community that is serviced by the ADA Act. We love what we do, and we just want you to help us make it a little bit easier for us to do our job, live within our city, and help our community. Anyone else want to add? Thank you.
Dahlia Oakley.
All right, thank you, Board. Mr. Pendergast.
I'm sorry, you are?
My name is Robert Brown. I am on the list, but she's yielding her time.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Like she said, we appreciate you guys coming out, checking on some of the situation that we complained about last time. One of the things I want to talk about is the policy. I heard a billionaire say the policy doesn't make a company, it's the people that make the company. And we love our jobs, as my coworkers said. We love our coworkers. We love the management who have not forgotten where they came from. We love our clients. We love what we do. We do not love a large share of the policies of GCS it has with the workers, some inconsiderate, harsh, brutal, and downright draconian. Let me share two. We just talked about that. If you're late and there was an issue with the trains, after you're proving it with the MTA saying it was our delays, you're still late, we'll discipline you, and yes, it still can and will lead to a termination if we have people, and today we have people here that have been a victim to that particular policy. Another one is the most extreme policy to me, is to close policy not with the workers, but with the contract that you have with GCS. They proposed and won a contract stating that we will pay the workers $13 an hour performing one duty. Instead, a majority of the workers are performing two duties. Individually proposed, yes, they combine the two into one job, and they still pay what they decide we are worth, $9 to $11 an hour, doing multiple jobs for the MTA, and that's not fair. Majority of the workers being minority, mostly black, it sends a signal to us that the workers, again, that our lives do not matter, we do not count, and we should and we do count. My mom said if you state to someone you do one thing, if you state to someone that you'll do one thing and you're well able to do it and you do not, that make you dishonest and lack integrity. It kills your ability to be trustworthy. That statement not only goes to an individual, but it goes to the people who are individuals running the company. If you say you're going to do one thing, make sure you do it. If not, that makes you lack integrity, and it makes you dishonest.
Thank you. How about Keith Hodges?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Members of the board, my name is Keith Hodges. I've worked for Paratransit a year and a half now. And honestly, if I told you my story, I'd probably need 2 hours. But my question to you is, how could a vendor such as GCS come get a government contract approved, signed, and from day one not have to honor anything in this contract? For the members and workers to get together, vote in the union, and a year later still fighting with GCS for proper wages, fair treatment, and this just be looked over like nothing ever happened. The military-style voting to get the union in, where we won by a landslide to elect TWU, and still to be fighting for fair wages, a contract, fair treatment. We just looking for some answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keith Green? Depends on who he yields it to. So who will be the next speaker?
Good morning. My name is Patricia Edwards, and I'm just speaking because I have worked and talked with a lot of the terminated workers, and it is really unfair if you go to the emergency room, if you're sick, you have a doctor's note, the doctor tells you to take off for 2 days, it's still counted as an absence, and these workers are still being terminated. The other thing that's really unfair, as the other workers said, they are paying from $9 to $11 an hour. Now imagine if you're working somewhere and you go to get a raise after a year to 2 years and they say here's 5 to 50 cents an hour. So now instead of making $11 an hour, you're making $11.15 an hour, and you have to raise a family on that. Could you raise your family on that?
Thank you. Let's see where we are. Edwin Guzman?
Edwin Guzman here. Just to restate, I was here at the last meeting, and roughly 2 weeks later after that, I was fired by GCS, and that's really what's going on in the call center. MTA really does need to be involved, so that things such as this do not keep happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hobbs, Celestial Hobbs?
My name is Celestial Hobbs. I work with GCS. It will be a year next month on the 24th. I was sent to the hospital on October 8th due to the bedbug situation. On the 9th, I had to call out of work. I had an excuse. On the 10th, I was due to come back to work, but they took my sick time, and I was calling out over an excused absence. I feel it is unfair, the treatment that I have received. I've been traumatized now due to the fact that I don't know if I will bring this situation into my home. And I do get paid $11 an hour, and that is, I mean, looking for a seat since 8:55 to 5:30 is very unfair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dylan Valle?
Morning, my name is Dylan Valle. I am with the Transport Workers Union. I'm one of the lead organizers on the campaign. As one of the members brought to your attention, we really ask that you look at this contract and do your due diligence. We met with the Inspector General the other day. There are many violations of law that we believe we've been able to demonstrate, and if you review the contract and have the task force that you've assembled do the diligence, we think that you'll find that. Many workers come to work early to work just so that they can find a seat because there aren't enough seats, but then receive disciplinary actions when they log in late. And none of the hours that they are not logged in, even though they're on the premises, are paid unless a worker brings it to the manager's attention, and the manager then has the discretion to correct the ADP people. So we do have, a really umbrella question. Many of the members ask us, and we sort of are baffled by it, and everyone we seem to approach doesn't really have an answer. And the one question is, how does a company like GCS propose a contract or make proposals to this board? Those proposals are reviewed, discussed, debated, vetted, signed. They don't have any obligation to implement anything that they've proposed. That's the question that we have. And we'd ask that the board answer that question. The task force maybe respond, and we're hoping that the Inspector General can respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keisha McFadden.
Hello, my name is Keisha McFadden. I've been employed with GCS for 8 months. During my time of employment, I have received bed bug bites. I brought home bed bugs. My house been inspected. They gave me a day off due to the bed bug situation. I know bugs is big in New York, but when you're working in the MTA building, I believe that's MTA's responsibility to help us clean it up so that we can work in a better place. Now, besides that, the point of this is we have a contract. Contract says, pay us $13, $14. We're getting $9. We're getting $11. Why? We don't have answers. Everything is handed back down to GCS. MTA issued out the contract. MTA issued out the contract. MTA should be held responsible to make sure that we get paid and get our equal rights. We are not in the 1920s. This is 2015. It'll be 2016 making $9 wages at $1,600 a month rent. Is that livable for me? No, but I will make it work. I have to, but I shouldn't. I took the job so I wouldn't get on welfare. I took the job because I needed it. I found out during my time on the job I was supposed to get paid more money, so I got involved. Being involved is to stand as a community to help one another. MTA is a big, big corporation, and we need your help. We're asking you, we are basically begging you to please open up the contract, look at it, hold and ask why you're not paying these people what they need to get paid, because we agreed on this when we gave you the money funded by the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christian Smith.
My name is Christian Smith. With my other colleagues, I've been with GCS about 1.5 years. The working conditions there are just bad. You shouldn't have to be paid $9 to $11 an hour slaving, almost slaving basically, and you get treated like that. You have management issues. You have issues where you can have documentation that you were out, that you need to be out. And I am also in the process of them trying to get me, and I have documentation showing that I was out and I couldn't come in. And they tell me, okay, well, you're still held accountable for this. It's unjust. That should be a practice in nowhere for you to come into work and they tell you you're still in danger of something you had no control over. I'm hoping, I'm begging that they change things at GCS, because nobody should have to work under those conditions. Nobody should have to be trying to live off $9 to $11 an hour, because it's impossible. It really is impossible. we have to take up extra shifts or have no off days just to try and live and do a service that we provide the community through MTA. And we're getting paid less than what we're supposed to be paid. Well, I hope is that things change, because every time more and more people get fired and more and more people come in and they can't stay that long in that environment. You get sick there, or you bring on home the issues of the bed bugs. Personally, I had that issue, and I had to do something about it. Still trying to do something about it. I just hope that with us coming over and over, that things will change. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanna Jenkins.
All right, Robert Brown again. Here's the contract. I'm quite sure you guys have a copy of it. I just want to refer to the date, October the 8th, 2012. There's two major positions at GCS. One is reservations and customer service. On year one, they proposed $13.35 an hour just for reservationists. Year one, $13.85. It is going on 3 years now. The average person working at GCS makes $11.15. The new workers start at 9. They want to extend this out for not just a 6-month probation period. They would love to extend it out to 12 months. Can you imagine that? Being a single parent, coming off welfare, trying to raise a family for 12 months under $9 an hour? That is almost unheard of. I mean, in America, that may be all right, but not in New York City when the cost of living is sky high. So when you get a chance, get a copy of this and just go to October 8th. Yes, we got disciplinary problems. Yes, we got issues of inconsideration that even though I'm sick or my child dies or something like that, I have to prove that my child died. I have to bring you the paperwork. And even then, it's still not considered. Yes, we have those discipline issues, but majority of it is just the discipline and the fair wages. It's here. It's evidence. They proposed it, and our question is, where's the money? We're struggling. Where's the money? I'm a single man, have to roommate, 40-something-year-old, never did that in my life, but because I can't afford to get my own apartment, you know, I can't even get in a relationship right now because I can't afford it right now. I got to be honest. Beautiful women, be honest. No, I can't even go out with you. Take me out because I can't afford it. I know it's funny, but it's serious. This hurts a man's heart. I mean, his character not being able to provide for himself, let alone a family. And I do want to have that privilege, just like most of you, to have a good family and be able to provide for them and give them what they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. We welcome all of your colleagues, but I have to advise you that it's a bad precedent for us if people are going to all yield their time to the same person. If Mr. Brown brought the Yankees, we'd have to give him an hour. So the last speaker is Gerald Montgomery. Mr. Montgomery.
I'm offended he didn't come fix my microphone. Good afternoon or morning, gentlemen. I actually wasn't here live for the last hearing, but I did see the video, and I want to thank you on behalf of my present GCS employees for your consideration and the way that you've looked into the matter, because it needs to be addressed. I worked for Global Contact Services for 3 years. I was there with the previous company, and I was wrongfully terminated, which has since been ratified by the New York State Labor Board. They thought it was frivolous. Everything that they say, it was happening. They fired me a year ago, about 3 weeks after the union election, and after I'd been awarded by the MTA for outstanding customer service. Everything that they say is true. GCS, Global Contact Services, has gone rogue, gentlemen. Okay, and they need to be reeled in, not just with the money, with the work conditions, with the personal skills of the management and the administration, because they are not equipped to actually supervise that operation in a professional manner. Didn't when I was there. Obviously, that still hasn't changed. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire of 1911 when the factory burned down because the fire exits were locked. And after that, a lot of issues were addressed with the company about their sweatshop policies. Well, this is just a different year. The
sweatshop policy still exists. Global Contact Services is practicing those freely on the taxpayer's dollar. Every time I swipe my MetroCard, we're paying off GCS to do these things. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure that you will look into it because it's an election year. It might be a good time to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Thank you all. That concludes the public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pelling.
if you recall, after these workers came last month, we did talk about the opportunity to provide a investigation or review of the contract and the working conditions. I know we have had conversations. Could you just bring us up to date on where that is, both for the board members and for the employees, so they understand how seriously we are taking these concerns?
Immediately following the meeting, interim president of New York City Transit, Farrar, got with head of audit Mike Silly and the Inspector General Barry Kluger, and they began a due diligence review and more than that. It was our desire to come forward with those findings to the board in time for this cycle, but it's essential they do it right and look through it, and they're making a commitment to do so before next cycle, and we will share that information with you. You've heard some of the comments there have seen us there, but we need to do it as quickly as possible and bring these matters to a head in terms of what actions we may need. Mr. Merdler.
Mr. Chairman, and this is directed particularly to council. In good stead against the city of New York, the state of New York ruled that good faith is an inherent obligation of country enough to give you that there is no good faith. The situation is illegal if it is as represented by them. The working conditions are illegal. You need to have a detailed report of every person fired or last year, and every board ought to get a copy of that contract, because at the next meeting, absent some indication from the Inspector General, I will determine.
Move on with the meeting. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the October board meeting. Today we'll be voting to approve a $1 billion capital program, capital projects from years 2015. I'm sure by now you've heard that New York State has committed $8.3 billion and New York City has committed $2.5 billion. The remainder will come from federal sources, bonds, and our own efficiencies as we continue the most aggressive cost-cutting in MTA history. I'm extremely grateful and relieved that New York City and the state came together to provide this essential funding. It's great news for all New Yorkers, our customers, and all of the constituents of the elected officials in every corner of the state. Because it's not just about the services that the MTA provides down here, it's about the goods and services that are provided and paid for that support employment in other parts of the state. This is a region that accounts for 11% of the nation's gross domestic product, and it's a region that simply would not exist without the transportation network. I city transit, and one of the reasons I did is the fact that the state, the legislature, and the city have always been able to come forward to get the funding it needs to do its critical capital work. And the capital program is no exception. In fact, it makes the largest investment in MTA history infrastructure. And later in the meeting, Craig Stewart will join me for a detailed presentation about that program as we seek board approval so we can submit it again to the Capital Program Review Board. Before we enhance and expand the system, it'll create hundreds of thousands of jobs, fuel our region's $1.4 trillion economy, and allow us to remain good stewards of the $1 trillion asset we have. That's the scale of the asset we're working with out there, and the region's out. To make sure you've all heard, we recently MTA family. Virgil Conway, who served the MTA 2001 board member, passed away earlier last week. Virgil was a banker and a philanthropist. He was usually influential and effective chairman. He helped protect his master links plan, for the first East Side Act, rolled out MTA's MetroCard, and he implemented fare discounts and eliminated two-fare zones, dramatically reducing the average cost of a ride. He will be sorely missed, and I'd like to take a moment of silence in his honor. Thank you. The minutes of the September meeting have been distributed to all members. Are there any corrections, omissions, or errors that people want to make? If not, could I have a motion to approve? Any further comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Committee on Finance. I chaired the Committee on Finance. There are 5 procurement actions this month in the total amount of $7.7 million. There are no competitive procurements. There are 4 competitive procurements totaling $5.996 million. The committee recommends these procurements, and any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. There is a ratification in the amount of $1.8 million. The committee recommends the ratification, and I move it. Second? Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. There is 1 real estate action item described on page 45 through 47 in the board book this meeting, and the committee recommends this real estate item, and I move it. Second? Comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transit and Bus Committee met on and reports the following. There are 4 procurement actions this month in the total amount of $147.9 million. Procurement in the amount of $23 million. Transit. The committee recommends procurement.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye.
There are 2 competitive procurements in the total amount of $124 million for New York City Transit. The committee recommends these procurements, and I move them.
Comments, questions? All in favor?
And there is 1 ratification in the amount of $900,000 for New York City Transit. The committee recommends ratification, and I move.
Second? Second. Comments and questions? In favor? Aye.
And that concludes the report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Farrar. The next is a report from Metro North Chair, Mr. Sador.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Metro North Committee met last month and procurement actions in a total amount of there's 1 non-competitive procurement in the amount of $4.5 million. The committee recommends this
Comments or questions?
procurement for $295,000. The committee recommends these procurements, and I move them.
Second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor? Aye.
For non
All in favor?
Aye.
North Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Sador. The Long Island Railroad Committee report, Mr. Pally.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. The Long Island Railroad Committee met this month, and I report there are 5 procurement actions in the total amount of $8.48 million. There are 3 non-competitive procurements totaling $4.66 million for the Long Island Railroad. The committee recommends these procurements, and I move them.
Second? Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye. There is 1 competitive procurement in the amount of $860,000 for the Long Island Railroad. The committee recommends this procurement, and I move it.
Second? Comments or questions? All in favor? Aye.
There is 1 ratification for MTA Capital Construction totaling $2.5 million. The committee recommends this ratification, and I move it.
Second? Comments or questions? Favor?
Aye. This concludes the report, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pally, thank you. The Bridge and Tunnel Committee report, Mr. Capelli.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Bridges and Tunnels Committee met this month and report the following. There are 3 procurement action items this month in the total amount of $12.139 million. There are no non-competitive procurements. The 3 competitive procurements in the total amount of $12.139 million. The committee recommends these procurements.
Second.
Questions? All in favor? Aye.
There are no ratifications, and this includes our Bridges and Tunnels. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Capelli. We now have a special presentation on the 2015 through 19 capital program, as I discussed earlier, and Craig Stewart will join me in making the presentation, and I'm sure we'll be in an engaged dialogue by any questions or comments any of the board members may have. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, excuse me. Thank you for the opportunity to present the 2015 to 19 capital plan today by 2 staff, Mr. Steve Rang, Director of Capital Program Management, and Stephanie Delisle, Director of Capital Funding. Next page, please. Today I will start with an overview that reflects the strategy behind the development of the capital program. Then we will look at how we will work to make this program an even better program through efficiencies and other initiatives. Then I will highlight some of the changes since the September 14 proposal. Steve Barang will detail the agency-by-agency capital program, and finally, Stephanie Delisle will wrap it up with a review of the funding. Turning to the new 2015 to 19 capital program proposal, we built investments around three strategic objectives: to renew the existing assets, to enhance the existing system, and to expand the reach of the MTA system. This slide shows a comparison of the board-approved September 2014 program and the revised proposal presented today. Starting with the core and renew building blocks of safety and reliability, provide the foundation of our investment program. The lower half of the core consists of the enhanced building blocks, which are our system improvement and customer experience projects. These help the MTA deliver better service and more service. The lower portion includes an additional $4.5 billion for network expansion. These projects allow us to address capacity constraints and the needs of the regional economy. Taken together, renew, enhance, and expand building blocks total $29 billion for the new proposal. In July, the governor issued a challenge to us to look for efficiencies and to deliver the program benefits at a lower cost. The chairman asked the MTA agencies and staff to review the proposed program with an eye towards implementing efficiencies, towards a cost reduction and savings of 6 to 8%. As we look forward to the 2015 to 19, we are working even harder to make this our best capital program yet. It starts with how we invest our dollars. We will use more alternative delivery methods. We will partner with the private sector to leverage shared benefits through strategies such as design, build, and other alternative delivery methods. Each agency to date has identified 38 design build projects across the MTA, and we will identify more. With the expansion of the component program launched in 2010 to 14, we're targeting just the components of those assets that need to be replaced so we can deliver benefits more quickly to those locations. This approach will be used in stations, in power, in structures, and in depots. We will work closely with the contracting community to ensure early involvement, to share risk appropriately, and we will update our contract terms and conditions. We will continue to work closely with our labor unions to achieve better results. We will continue to work to improve track access. Following the lessons from previous experience, such as Montague Street Tube shutdown, as well as the Greenpoint Tube, which allowed us to take advantage of track outages to make improvements in areas at a lower cost. We will apply new design standards learned from the Superstorm Sandy and build resilient where we need to. We will use project labor agreements where applicable, and we will use new technology to build smarter. We will continue our transparency and accountability initiatives, such as our capital program dashboard and the independent engineering consultant. We will perform more risk assessments to help mitigate cost increases and schedule slippages. We will extend the useful life of our assets and improve the performance of our assets through enterprise asset management. We will apply these and other approaches to achieve $3 billion in efficiencies to effect a 10% reduction from the original proposed 2015 to 19 plan. Looking at the highlights of some of the program changes, some projects were swapped in and out on a like-for-like basis, such as the 6th Avenue communications-based train control project, which was replaced with the CBTC project. This change was driven by service plans to support Sandy work. Some opportunity were eliminated by other changes in the program, such as the mentioned above, the 6th Avenue CBTC being swapped for the 8th Avenue CBTC. A number of projects were taking advantage of track outages on the 6th Avenue, tunnel light, interlocking, and power upgrade work. All of this work has been deferred, and funding was reinvested into a CBTC project on the Culver line, which will make 3 CBTC projects in this capital program. construction schedule of Second Avenue Subway. Phase 2 has changed to reflect the amount of work that can be performed in the 2015 to 19 program period. It was determined that after preliminary engineering that some of the projects were no longer needed during the 2015 to 19 period. An example of this is the painting work on the Whitestone Bridge. It was discovered that we could defer it for another 5 years, and this will be reprogrammed in a future program. The plan was based on at the time. A year has passed, engineering has progressed, costs have changed, some up and some down. Either legislative or safety needs have created a requirement for projects or increases to existing mandated projects. Capacity improvements driven by growth and New York goals led to improvement in new entrants and service expansion. Over to Steve. Give you agency by agency. Again, Steve.
Okay. Thank you. I'll begin by going through each agency. Have details in the picture of the Smith and Street Station that was 2013. The turnstiles that you see here will be refreshed in the 15 to 19 plan through new fare payment system to enable smart card and mobile phone payment technology. New York City Transit plans to achieve $1.3 billion of efficiency. Some of the examples are coordination, CBTC work, right-of-way work, using alternative procurements, the Jamaica bus depot, which will allow us to benefit us, and extending the component approach from class structures, power, shops. City Transit as a investments. The proposed rolling stock purchases for transit this will be buying 9 cars to replace the R46 rolls off property, 50 in addition placing the railway. Also, $1 billion worth of buses will buy 100 buses, including electric buses, standard clean. Transit states producing CBTC on lines, 6th Avenue. This CBTC train 52, the L line and the to 150% CBTC. City Transit will be investing in this program. So we and 50 from component investment. Will go from a 3-track to 2 will be as well. We'll be making fulfilling our key station commitment. We be doing the final 11 stations of our key station program in this program. In addition, we will be adding 7 non-key, so a total of 18 additional stations will be accessible in this program. And as mentioned earlier, we will be extending components from stations to a variety of other asset classes. Moving on to Long Island Railroad, this is a picture of the Atlantic Avenue Viaduct project that was completed in the 10 to 14 program. It was highlighted by the MTA's independent engineering contractor consultant as a very good example of an extremely successful design-build project. All phases were completed ahead of schedule and within budget. The remainder of this initiative on Atlantic Avenue branch will be completed in the 15 to 19 program with the renovation of the Nostrand Avenue station. Long Island Railroad anticipates about $300 million of efficiencies. Some examples of how they plan to achieve these efficiencies include partnering with municipalities and private developers to reduce costs, such as was done for the Wyandanch parking facility, which you see here in the picture. They will implement midday station closures for stations that they are renovating, such as Nostrand, Babylon, and Hunters Point, to streamline construction activities and provide benefits for customers sooner. And they will maximize piggybacking opportunities where possible, for example, for signal projects on the Babylon and Ronkonkoma branch. The proposed Long Island capital program is $2.8 billion. A large share of this will continue the rolling stock and track capacity investments that will begun in the 10 to 14 program, and they will complete the replacement of the M3 fleet, the mainline double track, and continued Jamaica capacity improvements. To complement the nearly $500 million in track capacity improvements, Long Island Railroad will invest another $350 million to continue the state of good repair of existing track assets, bringing the overall track investment category to $850 million. They will finish off positive train control with funding in this program. We will advance communication work and signal component upgrades. We will make investments to further the Long Island Railroad's long-term migration to centralized train control. It has money for a new fare payment pilot. It has money for station components. It will do station renewals, as mentioned earlier, at Nostrand Avenue, Hunters Point, and Babylon. We will construct a new station in Elmhurst, and we will design a new station at Republic. The balance of Long Island's proposed program is a variety of state of good repair investments. Moving on to Metro North, which rounds out our commuter rail program. This photo shows Grand Central Terminal, which is the centerpiece of Metro North's network. The 2010 to 14 capital program included over $100 million investment at Grand Central, including a variety of structural and station component work. Included in the 15 to 19 program is the replacement of the large train information boards, which you can see on the right-hand side of the photo. Metro North applied, or plans to apply, $200 million of efficiencies in this program. Some examples of that will include using a design-build approach for Harmon Shop improvements. Excuse me. They will expand their use of components to other asset categories such as undergrade bridges. And they will, like Long Island, will do coordination of right-of-way work, including at Grand Central and other right-of-way work. The Metro North capital program, as proposed, is $2.3 billion. 84% of this capital program is devoted to state of good repair. The program is dominated by two key projects, one of which is the replacement of its M3 fleet, and the other of which is the final phase of Harmon Shop. Harmon Shop supports 80% of New York State east of Hudson Metro North repair activities. Other significant, these two projects by themselves represent almost half of Metro North's program. Other significant investments include a down payment on what will be $1 billion investment in Grand Central over the next 20 years of $139 million, continued state of good repair investments in track bridges and tunnels, improving communication at Grand Central. Like Long Island, Metro North will make some initial investments in pilots for a new fare payment system. They will finish off positive train control, and they will make signal investments on the Upper Hudson line. They will make station investments on the Lower Harlem line stations, and the balance of the program is a variety of state of good repair investments. Moving on to MTA Bus, which MTA Bus complements our New York City transit bus operations within the 5 boroughs. This is a picture of a bus that was purchased in the 00 to 04 program. These buses are reaching the end of their useful life, and we anticipate replacing many of them in the 15 to 19 program. Efficiencies at MTA Bus that are planned will hopefully save $60 million. These include expansion of the component approach, coordination of various contracting and procurement opportunities, utilization of life extension techniques, and application of standard specifications to reduce procurement costs. MTA Bus's program is, not surprisingly, dominated by the purchase of buses. 145 new buses, nearly 300 of those are high-capacity express buses, and 53 of those are articulated buses, which will be used for the BRT route on Woodhaven Boulevard. The balance of the program includes previous mentioned customer information systems and component depot repairs. The last of our operating agencies is Bridges and Tunnels. This image depicts the RFK Bridge, which dates back to 1936 and is the oldest of Bridges and Tunnels crossings. In the 15 to 19 program, nearly $750 million of investments are planned at this facility. This includes Phase 1 replacement of the Manhattan ramp and other improvements to strengthen the bridge against seismic and wind activities. Bridges and Tunnels achieved plans to achieve $200 million of efficiencies, and they are doing that by application of design-build. They are doing 17 design-build projects, or anticipate doing 17 design-build projects in this program. They've applied efficiency savings from the 6th program to 15 to 19 structural work, and they are going to improve their coordination of lane closures to minimize disruption on their bridges. The Bridges and Tunnels program as proposed is $2.9 billion. The plan focuses on rehabilitating structures. The previous program had a 19% level of structural investment. This program has 35%. Structural work includes a $160 million investment on the Throgs Neck Bridge approach. There's a roadway and deck project at Throgs Neck, $310 million. Going to be an initial reconstruction of the RFK Bridge Manhattan Toll Plaza, as mentioned earlier. Also includes some enhancements, most notably a ramp linking the RFK Bridge with the northbound Harlem River Drive. This was done in coordination with our partners at the City of New York. B&T will also be doing a variety of other state of repair investments on its bridges and its tunnels. Complete agency section with our expansions projects. This shows the new station entrance for the extension of the number 7 line to 34th Street. This was supported by the funds from the City of New York, and it will help spur development and revitalization. It is also an example of innovative finance and transit-oriented development. The network expansion projects are critical. They underpin our ability to meet changing regional travel demands and demographics. This ability to adapt to ridership changes helps to promote increased activity. The MTA capital program, as proposed, totals $4.5 billion. It includes 3 major projects. It will finish funding for East Access and regional investments. That's $9 billion first column. Will initiate 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2 by funding environmental design work, some initial real estate purchases, some initial utility relocation and launch box prep, and access, the construction of the right-of-way assets, track, power, signal, communication, as well as 4 stations, and in the Bronx. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Stephanie, who will take us through the funding.
Thanks, Steve. Well, the funding landscape for the program has also changed significantly since MTA's original proposal for 2015 to 2019 was presented to the MTA board last year. Most notably, the funding gap for our proposed program of work has been reduced to 0. So just to recap, in terms of the chronology of funding events since September 2014, earlier this year, the governor's executive budget included $1 billion as a contribution to support MTA's capital program. Then, over the summer, as indicated in the July preliminary financial plan, MTA identified additional resources to provide $2.4 billion more in bonds and pay-go for 15 to 19. Subsequent to that, the state of New York committed to an additional $7.3 billion for the total contribution of $8.3 billion you see on the funding chart. And the city of New York increased its contribution to the proposed program by $1.8 billion, from the $700 million previously assumed to $2.5 billion, which is comprised of approximately $1.9 billion in direct city sources and $600 million in alternative tax levy revenue sources. I'd also like to highlight that the other MTA sources line shown here still assumes bonding of the PMT, which we anticipate achieving. And as stated previously, the funding for BNT's capital program is reduced to reflect $200 million in savings they've generated, which also has the added benefit of additional support for the transit and commuter portions of the program. So with that, as we see here, the funding gap for the revised capital program proposal for 15 to 19 is now $0. Correct?
Slide. Should the board approve the program today, we will submit the program to the State Capital Program Review Board in November, and they have 30 days to act. If they don't act, it is automatically approved. Thank you.
Before we turn it over to discussion or comments or questions any of the board members may have, while the discussion with the governor was going on about the $8.3 billion that the state was going to commit, as Craig referenced, there was an initial requirement that we look at driving efficiencies, driving costs out of the program through efficiencies, and that was the 6 to 8%. The dialogue has continued because while the underpinning of a capital program is renew, enhance, and expand, we need to look at new delivering strategies so that we can deliver this program faster, cheaper, and better. The governor wants it to be customer-facing so the customers understand exactly what they're getting for the dollars they're spending, and they can see real-time results with respect to those improvements occurring. And we need to do so in a way where they have a sense of ownership. There are a number of other items, but probably the most notable one of which is the introduction and technology, not for the sake of technology, technology for the sake of a more efficient system and ability to deliver an enhanced product. We live in a point in time where we're drastically removed from where this system was originally built at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, where technology was in its most basic forms. And what some people considered to be at one point in time a luxury, others considered to be an entitlement and a necessity. And so he has asked, if not directed us, to make sure that we apply technology where we can deliver the project, deliver the program faster, better, and with a more enhanced product for the customers. Now I'd like to open it up to any comments or questions board members may have. Drew.
Something that I noticed in this presentation that I haven't seen before was the inclusion of the Junius Livonia link, something I've been advocating and Transit Writers Council has been advocating for a long time, so congratulations on adding that. The program looks extremely balanced, balanced by region, balanced by expansion versus maintenance versus safety, and I congratulate everybody who's been involved in the making of this, as well as our funding partners.
Thank you, Andrew. That particular connection has been part of a dialogue that the city and the MTA has had over a number of years, and there's recognition that if there's going to be development out there, we need to be able to provide enhanced connectivity to the system. So, and that was jointly pursued over a number of years, but we have it in a program now.
And as you know, that's one of the last places that lines cross but aren't connected.
And in 1982, it was a lot different then.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Tom. I think I would just like to take a minute to say on behalf of the city, you know, obviously we are really glad we've reached this, I think, a very historic deal. It is, you know, unprecedented financial commitment from the city and from the state. It's going to be terrific for all our riders in this entire region. And I also want to particularly thank some of your team here, Craig and Stephanie and Stephen. They were terrific to work with. And just to speak to Andrew's point, you know, we're very pleased and grateful, in addition to just the overall investments of, you know, in the area of $16 billion in terms of New York City Transit and bus, we were able to get, you know, as things moved around in the plan, some priorities they were very important to the city. Some of the things we had outlined in our One New York plan, which had included Livonia Junius, had included a number of other station improvements, looking at some of the work along Utica Avenue, North Shore BRT, 2nd Avenue. Also, we're very pleased that the MTA is now going to be able to install CBTC on 3 lines. That's going to have, you know, a huge impact on riders all over the city. So, you know, once again, I think we're very, very pleased with, I think, what is now a very nice partnership with the city and the state, and a very terrific capital plan.
Thank you, Polly. Mr. Capelli?
Yes. Last year when we adopted the plan, I had raised questions about a couple of things, and if you could just spell out where we are at with them. One is the North Shore BRT, the second is the Mid-Hudson Rail Yard, and the third was the Long Island Second Rail Project, which I believe will have some funding in this proposal.
There is a commitment for the second phase of second track main line for Long Island Railroad. West of Hudson Midpoint Yard, there's money for, I believe, environmental and some property acquisition. And North Shore BRT, it's environmental. Want to elaborate on that, Greg?
North Shore BRT, there's environmental, which we believe will take about 3 to 4 years, and design funding.
Okay, and once, and is that capable, is there the possibility that we could move that timetable along and move on to acquisition during this program?
If we get through the environmental process and the design such that we need to do property acquisition, we could come back and have a modification to the program, an amendment to the program to deal with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Kay?
Just a few questions on the funding chart. The federal funding chart, I think, had, what, $6 billion from the federal government? How likely is that to be achieved? Are we...
Well, that's historical. Basically, that's what we've gotten in past years. Stephanie, do you want to say anything more?
Yes, it keeps relatively flat, the amounts that we received in recent history. Of course, we await reauthorization to know for certain how much more, how that might change, but we feel this is at least reasonable as a minimum amount to expect for planning purposes.
Right. At what point during the plan, I guess, you know, devil's always in the details, and we've done, you guys have done an extraordinary amount of work getting our partners, or several leaders of our partners, on board with the size and the need of the plan. And we've heard a lot about how it's going to be directed to the MTA, and it'll be bondable, I guess. Unclear exactly how the money's going to come. And so I guess I question what measures do we have in place to prevent us from either spending or issuing contracts if, in fact, A, the federal money doesn't come in, or B, the state money or city money comes in a way that, frankly, is not risk-free to the MTA. We've seen this before. This is not new, right? I mean, we've seen state aid and city aid come in different ways. In the last capital plan, the city was able to provide the subsidy for the 7-line extension in one manner. The state, through the years, have provided it in many different ways, in some cases, whether it was through real estate taxes and forced the MTA to bond it, which, as we know, sort of left us holding the bag, or either money directly. So the devil's in the details. I really believe that. I think we're probably 75% there, maybe more. I leave that, it's your judgment, Chairman. But I think work really still needs to be done, and I think we have to be extra diligent. The last thing we want is for us to take a risk, and we're really not sure where the state, the city, and the federal aid's coming from. So I guess, what time frame do we need before we hit that mark where we're taking a risk?
Let me start it, and then I'll let the staff go over at a level of detail. In some ways, we're in a very similar position to where we've been in prior capital programs. In other ways, we're different. We've never had a capital program approved at the first day of the capital program. It's generally been about 6 months. We're now about 10 months. We're a little bit behind. We've had less surety, though, on commitments of funding than we have right now. Surety in the sense of commitments being made, actual sources of that funding still yet to be determined. But in the last capital program, we had an agreed-to scope. Funding certain for 2 years, had to come back the following year for the funding for the remaining 3 years. So the way we're approaching this is from a standpoint of we have risks with the federal dollars. Right. We have to come to closure with what are the exact sources of money that the city brings to the table and the state brings to the table, and that'll be part of the legislative process in 2016.
Maybe, right? I guess that's
Pardon
the
me?
question. Does it need to be solved in 16? Can it be pushed to 17? How much money do we have? I know you don't want to answer that in the wrong way, but I think it's important for us to know when we actually need them to act.
Yes, but I liken this to running a steeplechase. You know, steeplechase races, they have different hazards. And win a steeplechase, you walk the course ahead of time so you know what the hazards are. But when you actually start the steeplechase, I just know this from experience, you have to concentrate on the hazard that's in front of you, because if you lose that hazard, you lose the race. So first we have to get it approved by the board, then we submit it to CPRB. And if we don't get CPRB approval in a timely way, we are really spot because we came to the
Right.
If we get CPRB approval, we back $1 billion little bit less of money that and awarding contracts.
On our own.
Correct.
On our own.
Right. The risk there is ideally you'd like to renew, so you prepare for before you do enhance, and certainly enhance before you do expand. But we'll have to use some repair, and it'll be incumbent upon us to risks. We're communicating that to the board when we're contracts. But there's a very strong commitment that the governor and mayor have made. This was a fairly challenging process, but we got to an end game. And we'll have to make sure, as we're making these awards, we're communicating to you what those risks are.
I appreciate that. And as you know, you know, got out the off, we're going to do this, and then people like myself at some point in my career sat in a room and figured out not always as hard box as you think. And so I really want to be able to make money workforce appear. And I think there's still a lot more hard work to be done here. So I think it's great we got to this point. I'm sure it wasn't easy to get two out of, a bunch of the leaders. I'm not sure everyone else, but I think commitment, I think it's, I just make sure that we continue to protect ourselves from a risk.
Things we have paper that we're going to do, some others won't, which reinforces where we think we can save money. We need to go beyond that because they're going to be over and other important bonding if you don't risk, if you bond $100 million. But those are the types of sure we communicate to you as we're taking advantage of we're going to do review in November of an operating budget in December and the mid-year budget because we keep too tight together. Neil?
I wanted just a couple of things. One, thank you for leadership during the time frame. I'm one of the newer members and have not witnessed this. I went away as all the areas of the writer and the stakeholders that participate. I thought your leadership during the process was exemplary, and thank you for that. I do want to, and towards your point about support for the campaign in the mix, at least the members of this campaign. Perception, reality of safety, they think about is it reliable, is it sufficient, and price. They think about does it make sense from a value standpoint relative to alternatives. Looking through the Metro North plan, I would say that you satisfy all three of those requirements. TC and all the efforts towards state of good repair. On the service side, the replacement activities, certainly the communications piece, I think is particularly passionately advocated for by riders. And on price, I think the effort you've done on a cost-saving standpoint is material, and when we thank you. So from Metro North, at least, appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Neil.
First, Tom, I want to congratulate you and the staff, Craig Johnson and his staff especially. I think what you did was a magnificent job. I've been around a long time on transit issues, and as chairman, you showed great leadership. You managed to get a lot of people on board, a lot of interest groups in New York City on board, singing the same tune, that we need the capital program that's critical to our region. I think that helped get the governor and the mayor on board at levels that are unprecedented. The city's contribution is unprecedented. We had some help with that. My hat's off to Gene Rushinoff. He did ask the Independent Budget Office to do a study, which came out the city should contribute more, but the city is contributing more than I had imagined. They contribute, and I want to congratulate the mayor for that. The governor stepped up, but I don't think that would have happened without your leadership, so I want to thank you for that. I think there are some challenges ahead generally, things you have told us in the briefs, things that are in the book that you've told us in the briefings. We're going to do things, we're going to save money by doing things, and some of the things we're going to do is impact passengers in a different way. In some ways, it might be better because of the way our ridership is restructuring itself. But people should be prepared that they may not pay a lot more at the fare box, they'll pay more at the fare box, but not for the, but they may pay in time. We're going to have situations, we're going to have closed stations or more inconvenience, but I think in the long run, it may be better. So that's something that you have my support on. That Port Jefferson combined, the quality of service there. I'm hoping I see that there's at least some effort to start to try to put a yard out there. I want to just mention that publicly because that's a sore point for the people over there. Anyway, just like to conclude, congratulations. I don't have any additional questions. Thank you.
Mr. Schwartz, and then we'll come back to you, Susan.
Tom, just a quick question. I think I heard about, just wanted clarification. The 4 proposed Metro North stations in the Bronx, are they part of the capital plan?
Yes, that's the Penn Access for Metro North, and it's, I think, $695 million for stations, power track and signals.
Right. So work for those 4 stations
Yes.
are in there. Thank you.
Yes. Susan?
I'm sure everyone knows that I'm very thankful to see the Port Jervis Midpoint Yard and passing sidings getting a start in this program. I want to thank all of the board members who supported my position on this, the hard work that Metro North went to, and also the many transit advocates and elected officials that came together. I very much appreciate that the governor and the mayor put so much money in and at the same time saw to it that the transit-deprived counties that don't have as much money in the pot were not neglected. I think all of us know that it's not everything we wanted, but it's a good balance and a good start. I do want to remind the board of one thing. The vast majority of the money is going to state of good repair and a kind of new thing, which is keeping up with technology, which we have to do. You've heard me talk about infrastructure constraining the ability to provide transit. We represent a region that's growing, a population that's growing, and we're going to have to grow with it. That means a lot of money needs to be put into it. The elected officials did an incredible job of coming together on this program. I appreciate it, and I hope it's the beginning of being able to continue the investment. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to also congratulate you and the staff on a tremendous job, and the governor and the mayor for coming together. Just 2 things relating to the Long Island piece. Obviously, we are tremendously pleased with the financing for the completion of Second Track. That project by itself will do more to help more riders on the Long Island Railroad than almost anything other than Jamaica, which is also in the plan, and the work that we're going to do to try to finally disentangle that. I'm also very pleased that the Long Island Railroad and MTA are. I always like the fact that Grand Central is always on the front page of the Metro North, but for some reason Penn Station is not on the front page of the Long Island there, but are finally stepping up with some of the money in that regard. Pallet, whatever it is. One thing I wanted to add to what Ira said on the complaints that we get on the Huntington and Port Jefferson branch because of the service that some people believe is inadequate. Now is your chance to step up. We have put $211 million in the plan for a new yard. Without a yard, you can't improve service. The problem, of course, is it now is dependent upon the municipalities involved in that area to find us land for a yard. Because it's their responsibility to work with MTA to provide the land and acreage necessary on that line to locate such a yard. Because without it, it's nice, but it's not going anywhere if we don't have a spot in which we can do it. So for those people on the Huntington and Port Jefferson branches who have been yelling for increased service, now is your chance to put your land where our money is. Because we're providing the money, now you have to provide the land and make this happen. I'm hopeful that will happen. My conversations with the county executive indicate clearly he wants to have it happen, and he's very appreciative of the money that we have put out there, but it's dependent upon everybody in that area coming together and saying, now's the time for improved Long Island Railroad service, and to do that, we have to make this significant capital investment. I am hopeful we will get to that point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm hopeful, too, because when I was president of the Long Island Railroad in 1999, the dialogue started on that yard.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First of all, congratulations. My greatest respect for you. I started working on the issue of increased capital infrastructure for Staten Island transportation probably a decade and a half ago, and was involved in the ping pong between the mayor and the governor, back and forth, trying to get both sides to agree on doing something that would relieve the pain of 500,000 transportation starved citizens of Staten Island, which eventually led to my being appointed to the board and having conversations with each of the chairs and or CEOs, executive directors, initially asking the question, if not now, then when? I had the conversation with you, I had the conversation with Joe, with their predecessors to the extent, and we got different answers. And I thought and I hoped that you would be the one that would ease our pain. And I'm very thankful that you are, and thankful to Governor Cuomo for getting the ball started on something so critical to the citizens of Staten Island. And as you explained to me in convincing me that this was the way to go several years ago with the fungibility aspect of bus rapid transit, it's not just the North Shore corridor that I'm looking at. It's the whole reshaping of a transit system that's going to have to serve between 500,000 and 750,000 people over the next century. And we really need to make that footprint for it. So this is a really great day for mass transit in Staten Island, and I'm thankful to the City of New York for putting up their big chunk of money. It's nice to see that. I would hope that as the year goes on, the city will get behind the efforts to move this project quicker, because it is critical, and there are a lot of components to that. We can't wait 25 years to build this out. The North Shore is just going to collapse with the new wheel and the outlet malls and the ever-increasing congestion, and I believe it serves this mayor's goal of increasing mass transit and making pedestrians safer and so forth. So I would hope that during the next 2 years, we can accelerate the time schedule and begin and that in the budget. We'll do that, and now I'm looking forward to I can give up my extra innings that I have on the board with at least relief. Angela is going to come out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your leadership, but for that leadership, we'd still be wallowing in the mud. I also thank the governor for a particular effort. That is the word of in the Bronx. I also call attention to move this program forward in the borough. Using existing funds, would urge strongly that
I just want to weigh in and briefly thank you, Tom, for your leadership and welcoming you. I also just want to thank you for not only his leadership and the mayor for his commitments. It's been much to develop and come together, and I look forward to helping one way or another the build. It could be very exciting times at the MTA, and again, thank you.
Thank every and say some of what has been said before. But before I do that, there is some capital should share just every community, the riding, using. There were no major, even minor omissions concern us. This is extraordinary, and it I think reflects really not on our path, but also on, and you acknowledge I'm proud that rest of the chair is getting it. This is the biggest and most ambitious, and you're very proud of it. So should your team. I commend the government cares, understands this mass transit, unlike the other. The essential making forward. The advocates interested in the health will make us the we need. Specific things in this plan. Sat moving phones to make it expand is to integrate important education net in the region. The regions in the Metro North, Penn Access, as we now know it, is an example of many others in this plan. So, Mr. Chairman, I couldn't be prouder of your personal strength in this very trying process. It must not have been comfortable being you for a long part. Then, of course, everybody else played a role, and we can all be proud of that role. We can all be proud of the system we leave behind and our stewardship system that we'll see grow and improve in material ways, maybe not in the next year or two, but we will certainly leave it much better children and grandchildren, and that's our job, to leave it better. So thank you.
A number of you contributed throughout this process. You'd pick up the phone, you'd call me, you'd be off record, you'd be on record, you were giving me wise, sage advice, and I appreciate that. I also need to thank the staff because they did an excellent job. I think we've improved the documentation and what we have now, so you can see if you compare this, not to be critical of the first capital program, 6 capital, but they did an excellent job. I'll just leave you with one thought, and for those of you that have had the benefit and the joy of having an addition to your family through birth, you know, at the front end of that process, you're looking at the birth, you're looking at that actual birthing day. And then the realization hits about 2 days before that that's not the end, that's the start of something. That's something that you're going to have to commit to even more. And that's the way we look at this capital program, in the sense that if we do get it approved by the board, we do get it approved by the Capital Program Review Board, and we go forward, the true challenge is implementing. Because I've said many times, and you all know this, when you go into somebody's pocket and take their money, they're a little bit resistant to that. But if you can show that you can deliver something for them, they get value out of that, they will reinforce it. And someone has to follow this. There will be another process 5 years from now, and if we don't deliver this process well, it'll be that much harder to do it. So thank you very much. Now I think we have to move this. No? And approve, let's see, now may I have a motion, board member authorization for the approval of the proposed MTA 2015 capital program, and to authorize the chairman and chief executive officers to submit the capital program review board portion of the capital program to the CPRB for their review in accordance with Public Authorities Law 1269-B. Motion? Second. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. And now may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, sir.
Well done.
Put your mic. Check, check. Check, 1, 2. Beautiful.
Test one. Test 1, 2. Test. F2. Mike.
We did check it. Testing. Testing. Okay, hold it like this. Testing.
Hi, Tom. I'm trying to squeeze two. First, an explainer on the proposal to close stations midday, I guess, to find efficiencies on the Long Island Railroad. Congress asking the extension for positive train control.
It goes in line with what the governor's asked us to do to try to deliver the program cheaper and faster. Ways we can ask the contractors their own resources to be able to put up and then get out. An example, it was out of 14 months. People that have done business with us for over 20 years, it's the issue of access. So how can we do that? So that's an example of one where it is impactful because you're closing the station, but the idea is shorter duration of that closure, and then they get in, they get out. And the customer is not necessarily having to walk through a station undergoing semi-formal construction. On TC, as I said, I didn't say in the safety committee meeting, which was earlier, and I've been there, is that the House passed a bill that includes provision to extend the deadline 3 years to December 30, 2018. We're heartened by that. I'm not going to change our commitment to deliver as soon as possible, but just was be in a position not to be able to make it this December 31st. So this gives us more time. But we've committed the two commuter railroads to be done by that. We're putting pressure on to get it done sooner.
Your interest in steeplechase. Were you a rider? That's not a question.
Oh, it was actually in Jim, one of the steeplechase.
Well,
but it was.
I would
have lost. I would have had probably the same experience.
Well, I understand the point you made that about this is from city. Sorry about that.
I wouldn't say I'm nervous. I think other people talk. You're not there until you're there. In some cases, we're further along than we've been. In other cases, about the same. In other cases, maybe further back. But I will go by the statement. If you look across the country, the level of commitment of the support capital program, New York second, even through this process to this point, there was some from support across the board. So not nervous as much, I'm confident we will get there.
Good afternoon, morning. In terms of their commitment, how much did that play a role in Utica Avenue study and India and front?
The transfer between that location had been part of the discussion MTA had had over a year, as well as some other things talked about in the program. Is, but certainly the city, it wants to be able to have it saying that.
From the MTA on cap, there's in the transit community that's spent wisely. You're presenting
Other does not. I'm sorry.
A lot of projects come in over budget. A lot of projects capital plan advocates say you're cutting substantial amounts of money on it. One, I'd like to just get a commitment. You say, you know, wholesale because of the reductions you've made. And explain just a little bit more in detail, like what kind of efficiencies and savings. What does that mean to the rider? If you're saying that through efficiency, rider going to be impacted?
First of all, it's the biggest capital program we've ever had. So I'm a glass is 3/4 full person, so it's more than we've had at the prior capital. When we talked about the governor asking us to be more efficient delivering the program, we committed to taking 6 to 8% of cost out of the program without reducing its. So that's an indication of better value for less money, or the same value for less money. Going back to your initial comment, I've been in this industry over 40 years, and I worked at a federal level when we were seeing projects that were delivered other places. If you take a look at projects, the systems that were built since the 70s, the order of magnitude overruns in terms of percent, although you're getting into billion projects now, there used to be hundreds of millions. One part, if not at the higher end of the better delivery. But that's not to say we rest on our laurels and we can afford to have those kind of issues occur. Wasted is dollars that could be done for the system.
Thanks. Two quick questions. First, widely assumed the governor will pay for his contribution to the capital plan with some form of debt. Is there any form or structure of debt that would not be acceptable to you?
Whenever you look at debt finance, first of all, capital improvements, long-term capital improvements, where you're making an improvement to an asset the size we have, $1 trillion, and it's going to be a realized benefit for generations to come, that is definitely something that is debt financed. It's not a for now type activity where if only people right now that could see that benefit, that would be closer to say that that's an operating cost. So, and whenever we have the issue of how much debt do we have out there, there's the debt cap issue. How much of our operating budget is being spent on debt finance, and those are always healthy tension dialogues. What's healthy tension? Where there's differing points of view saying, is it too high, is it too low, and then we give that information to the board, and the board makes an informed decision based on that. So whenever we finance, that's the dynamic that dialogue occurs, the perspective. You'd like that, and you won't be able to do state of good repair and normal replacement.
And my other question was, given all this controversy over the thinks period underway, do you have any, I don't know, you're a father, do you have any concerns about how women are portrayed in subway advertising?
If you were asking me that question personally, not as absolutely. And one of the most difficult things you do in public service is, as much as I make jokes about I'm CEO and chairman and I got this division in my head, I have to do the same thing at a personal level. So in answer to your question, but the First Amendment issue is the First Amendment issue. The only thing that is exceptionally frustrating for staff here to deal with is that I don't want to diminish how important the First Amendment is, but that's not the primary function of the Transportation Authority by any means. It's moving 8.5 million people a day safely and reliably to their jobs and their places of enjoyment.
Mr. Chairman, I know there's a lot of technical talk that surrounds the capital plan. Just wondering if you can translate the meaning of the capital plan into what the impact will be for the riders? I know that that's a pretty heavy question to try to answer.
It's a good question because I got to remind myself there are a lot of people out there that aren't transportation experts and engineers, so they're going to reduce to their terms. There are certain things in life you expect to have happen. Turn the light switch on, power comes on. Flush the toilet, things leave. And those are entitlements or expectations. Repair standpoint, from improving the quality and level of service. So before you get to expand, provide additional capacity, people like to see technology. They like to be able to go down to a station and use this device. They like to be able to have real-time information about why the train's delayed, when they can expect they'll make an informed decision. So they're going to see improvements in those areas. And then the third area, which is expansion. If we're going to see 1 million more people in the city by 2035, and you're seeing the growth of the city right now, we have to provide additional capacity. So I think Mr. Ferrer summarized it very well in the sense there's really something for everybody. Traffic, those issues for new and important for new workers. Because if I was entering the workforce right now and I came to New York and I wanted to spend the next 20 or 25 years here, I'd want to make sure the transit system that exists in the lifeblood for New York today is going to be 25 years from now. This is a good investment in that.
You alluded to finding the specific funding sources down the road, including when the legislature meets next year. Could you give us examples of the potential funding sources that have been looked at?
Bits and pieces of it have gotten out there for a long time. The New York proposal is a proposal. There's been legislation by both the Senate and the Assembly with respect to looking at funding sources. You can go to the record. There's also the issue of people are saying they really don't want new taxes. They may look at a diversion. And we've actually started the dialogue in terms of what can we do to reduce that gap by economies and efficiencies we bring to the table. That legislative dialogue is premature for me to say about any one, the ones that are already out there. I may be an expert and have a lot of experience in the new one. So I'll let them answer that question.
But at this point, is there one source that's emerging?
No, there's no one source. And what we said early on in this process is we didn't have a go into a smorgasbord menu and choosing a number of ones as they were sustainable. They provided the revenue sources we needed, and we got to the point where we fund this program.
At the committee meetings on Monday, there was how long real-time information to the B division. Why is it taking so long? And what can you say to riders who say to me things like, well, we've been hearing about information for like 10 years now?
It is probably one of the most frustrating issues not only to deal with, but we've got a system that was the 19th to the 20th century where technology was nowhere near what it is today. So the ability and the fact that we're underground, the overwhelming majority of the system, because in most people's room, subset from my have GPS. So when you go underground and you don't have ability to global position sensor and ability to find a specific location where something's at, people don't understand why it's hard. The way we delivered on the A division was very costly, very extensive, and if we were to follow that same exact, probably 10, 12 years away, doing it a different way, we're putting consistent to see if we can actually find new ways. Technology on the communication side changes, the state of the art, every 7 years. Track technology changes about once every it moves continually, but that takes 20 to 25 years. So there are times that we look today and we go, there's no technical solution to the problem, but in 2 or 3 years there may be, and we wouldn't hesitate. When we made the decision, the organization did, Jay did, two chairmen before me, to go to bus time, and we actually just put some people to work buying off-the-shelf systems, putting off-the-shelf components and putting a system together, we were able to deliver bus time in a much faster way. It's easier outdoors. That's why, and we know the day we deliver it to people, we will have solved the problem.
Hey, going back to the debt question on the state level, do you have assurances from the governor that their portion of the plan will be responsible for it, which could put pressure on fares?
if you watch the dialogue, and there was a dialogue that we talked about in terms of our talking to the chamber and the governor. It was a dialogue between the concerns people had, then we incurred that. So it was pretty clear in that discussion, if we hold the debt, ability for the principal and interest stays with the state. That was very clear.
Oops, sorry. To go back to the underwear period ads, I was wondering what specifically your concerns were about gender and the subway ads. As you said you had concerns, I was wondering what they are.
I think I was pretty clear that they offended me. And this is about as far as I'll go on the personal side. There are people that are near and dear to my heart, so I asked my wife and I asked my daughter, what they thought of them, because that means something to me, means what all you feel. It's not offensive, but that's the best.
So there was some mention, the vast majority of the money in the capital being for state of good repair, and there has been some criticism of the MTA that it's in a constant state of triage of keeping things in good repair. Is there a way that you're doing those state of good repairs differently this time around so that they'll last longer and have more impact for the long term, so you don't have to keep doing the same things?
Every in life has a life. So, a piece of paper has a life, a light bulb has a life, your sink at home has a life. But at some point in time, at the front end of this process 30 years ago, it was pretty simple because the car was in such bad shape, the track was in such bad shape, that's where the money went, it's where it had to go. When you have a $1 trillion asset, it takes 23,000 years of seconds to go a trillion. You have to be judicious in terms of assessing how much useful life is left in all of the assets. So I'll just get technical for just a minute. A reinforced concrete structure, that's what we learned in school as an engineer, is a life of 800 years. Okay? I don't think we've had 800 years of reinforced concrete structures, but some have lasted real well, some haven't lasted real well. So when we do state of good repair projects, we put in new technology to enhance the life. But we're also aggressively pursuing a whole life asset management program so that we can use the latest engineering principles and concepts and inspection techniques to determine how much useful life you have in a particular asset before you replace it. Ideally, you'd like to replace the asset just before it becomes unreliable or unsafe and get its full useful life. You don't want to go beyond that for obvious reasons, but if you replace it too soon, that's money that could be spent in another area. So those are the different areas that we're going to have to deal with. And what I said in the public comments, the challenge, whoever is going to be taking this same discussion and argument forward 5 years from now, will be that much more difficult.
I had a question relating to North Shore Bus Rapid Transit. It seems that a lot of at least some of the right-of-way has been damaged by Hurricane Sandy, so I wanted to see where the funding allocated for environmental and design work, how that will relate and what exactly that funding and that work means for the system.
In the alternatives analysis, the preferred alternative, and that's a formal definition of a process, that's not people voting what the preference is. We know what the route is, we know where the limits are, and so we can take a look at that right-of-way. A large portion of the right-of-way is the old North Shore rail line. Parts of it have been sold off. Parts of it has fallen into Arthur Kilvan Cull. So we need to go through that and identify that, do the environmental assessment, what impacts it may have, and also from an engineering standpoint, get more information. Do we have to put fill in? Do we have to move the alignment? What do we have to do to upgrade it to make sure that it could hold the busway? That's it.
Policy. You're being sued. You're being sued about the ad policy. I think we need a comment on that.